Welcome back to Marvel Good Yay, the spinoff of the Geek Easy podcast where we are discussing every MCU film. And today is the big one because we are discussing the brand new film, the 22nd film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. We're talking about Avengers Endgame. I am Pixel Dan.
Jonathan Leonard.
And Jaron McCaffrey.
Ooh boy.
So many movies.
We talked about a lot of movies. We watched a lot of movies. But man, I think it's safe to say right up front that this payoff was pretty dang good.
Man.
Pretty amazing,
Man.
if I say so right up front.
It's been awesome.
It's been a great ride.
I just want to start this off by saying and kind of pointing out, like, think back to 2008. Even when we got like the kind of the Nick Fury thing and we started hearing rumors of like, oh, there's going to be an interconnected universe. Could you have imagined this?
Not even kind
of. I remember specifically having the conversation where I was like, I think I was probably talking to my mom or, somebody who was asking me like, what's that mean? I was like, well, it means that some of these characters are going to cameo in each other's movies and maybe one day we'll get an Avengers movie.
Yep.
Like and now here we are.
That hopefully won't be a disaster.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Yeah.
It's great. It all started with that, where they started teasing us that there might be an Avengers movie.
Yeah.
And then we got that Avengers movie.
Yep.
And then at the end of that, they teased us with the Infinity storyline. And here we are in 2019 getting the ending of the Infinity storyline.
Right.
That is bonkers. But it's so amazing. It's so amazing. It's such a this is a once in a lifetime scenario, right?
Yep.
Like this is never going to be recreated again. Not
Never.
like this. Not the same way. Like this is such a phenomenon that we experienced that it's just going to be one of those things that we kind of look back on as like fans of movies and pop culture and just be like, man, we lived through that. That was pretty special. Yeah. And I feel like it's on par with relating it to how big and special the original Star Wars trilogy was at the time, because we grew up throughout the 90s mostly, and Star Wars was huge in the 90s, but it was already in that retroactively looking back at Star Wars phase. You know what I mean? Like the first two movies came out before I was even born, so like I didn't get to experience the phenomenon the first time around. I experienced it through one of the resurgences.
Right.
The MCU is going to be like that, and that is crazy to think about, but it's awesome.
Well, I mean, this movie is its own nostalgia in a way, too, or like at least incorporates it,
Insane, right?
Because if you look back, I mean, we were big Star Wars fans in 93 when we were 10, 12, 13, somewhere in that range, and it felt like ancient history to us because we were so young. But at that point, the gap between the last Star Wars movie and where this was like retro fandom for us is about the same amount of time that these Marvel movies have existed.
Yeah.
I mean, it's right about that decade mark.
Yep.
And the movie even, I mean, it's a love letter to itself. Somebody quoted it to me as a love letter to the entire franchise before I had seen it.
Yeah.
And once I saw it, absolutely. I mean, that's what it is.
Did you punch that person for spoiling the movie for you?
No, I asked him. Yeah. He didn't at all, though. Like, I was like, spoiler-free, two-line review or whatever, good or bad, and that's basically what he said. But that didn't spoil anything for me. That was a perfect way of saying it.
Yeah.
And I didn't read too much into it at the time, and I saw the movie. And as soon as Act 2 started, with all the time travel stuff, I was just like, okay.
Yeah.
This all makes perfect sense. And and I never would have thought of let's remind everybody about where we came from by showing them where we came from a different perspective. But as soon as they started doing it, I'm like, I can't think of a better way to culminate 22 movies.
For sure.
Man, you're totally right about it almost being its own nostalgia, too, because when Jaron and I were waiting to get into the theater, he was telling me about a video that he had watched on YouTube about some dude talking about Endgame, and he was saying, I've been a fan of this franchise since I was a kid. And that just makes me mad, first of all. Because what? No, stop that.
Right.
Like, but how, I mean, that's totally a thing. Like, 10 years ago, almost 11 years ago is when these movies started. So there's definitely a generation that were kids when these movies came out and are adults now. And that's crazy. That is so crazy.
You were 12 when Iron Man came out. You probably have like a full-time job now.
Right. Weird. That is so weird. But as I was saying, never recreate it again, I don't think. We've seen so many other people try to recreate what Marvel's done already. Marvel's not even going to be able to do it like this again.
Exactly.
Right.
Like, we're going to get more Marvel movies, but they're never going to have this again,
And
right?
I think they will have milestones. I think
Right.
there will be, culminating points. They will have things that are similar in scope, I'm sure. But you're right, nothing will ever be quite like this. And even when other studios and other properties finally figure it out after 10 years of trying and failing, or however many years it takes, because they haven't done it yet. But even then, we'll get other versions of this, but it'll always harken back to this. Everything will be compared to this from this day forward.
Yeah.
Although, not that I don't disagree, but I will say, like, we said those same things about Avengers.
Yeah.
Especially when the Age of Ultron came out. And we were all like, well, you just can't do the Avengers twice. Yeah. And then and I was,
now they've
I was
done it
saying
3 times.
things. Well, yeah, and I was saying things like that even like after Infinity War. I was like, look, I'm looking forward to Endgame, but it ain't gonna be no Infinity War.
Yes.
I
was telling somebody that like day of. I was like, I'm starting to kind of bum myself out because I'm realizing that as much as I'm looking forward to this, it's not going to be as good as Infinity War.
Yeah, it's got a tall order.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm wrong.
This one jumped right to the top of my list.
Yeah.
I just like to let our readers know before we get into the discussion too. We really haven't had a chance to like sit down and actually discuss it. So you guys are kind of going to hear our first,
and we've only
like
seen
our first real conversation about it.
And we've only seen it once each, right?
Right. Like, I'm definitely planning to go back because I want to take Spencer to it when it gets a little more feasible to take a 5-year-old to it. I feel like it's been kind of busy. Still, the movies are like sold out and stuff around here.
The financials.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Well, what is that? Why don't we do that first?
Great segue.
I'll go ahead and date stamp us here. We're recording this the Monday after opening. So it's been out in China and a few places for 5 days, in the U.S. for 3 days. We don't have final totals like we have for all the other movies. Well, I guess we didn't for Captain Marvel either. But for most of the other movies, we've had box office totals. For this one, obviously, we only have 1 week's worth, and it's already broken every record you can think of for that.
Totally insane.
$350 million domestic.
Wow.
$1.2 billion worldwide, with a B. Billion worldwide. That is insane. And I remember, going into Saturday, there were people talking about what a lofty goal 300 would be. And just blew it right out of the water. Infinity War was a huge milestone with 256, I think, domestic, 254, right in that range. And they beat it by almost 100. Just in the United States.
Just in the U.S.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Not counting all the worldwide stuff. I've got a list of records that it's broken already in those first few days. Domestic, biggest opening weekend with $350 million. The first to cross $300 million opening weekend. Fastest film to $100 million.
Hold on. No other movie has ever crossed $300 million?
Not in a weekend.
In the weekend?
No.
Okay.
I mean, again,
Wow.
Infinity War smashed records by getting to 255.
Right.
I just had a third different number. I think it's 254 or 256. Doesn't matter much when you get to that point.
In there, yeah.
Fastest film to 100 million, 17 hours.
Wow. What was the record before that, do you know?
No, I don't. But I also don't know how they count with the pre-sales.
With the pre-sales and
stuff. But, I mean, I guess that would technically start from opening.
Right.
Yeah.
The first showings or whatever. Highest Thursday previews with 60 million. I want to say the highest before that was in the high 40s. Biggest single day, 156.7 million on Friday. Biggest all-time Saturday, 109 million on Saturday. Biggest all-time Sunday with 84.3 million. Biggest IMAX. Well, this one says biggest IMAX Marvel opening weekend. The more words you put into your record, the less it matters. Right. Globally, biggest opening weekend, 1.2 billion. First to cross 1 billion on opening weekend. Fastest film to 1 billion in 5 days. Biggest IMAX opening, doesn't say Marvel on this one, with 91.5 million. In China alone, it's got the biggest opening weekend with 330.5 million. So they almost tied the U.S. just in China. So roughly half of its box office was between those two countries there. Biggest opening day with 107.8 million outside, or in China rather. Biggest single day at 81 million. Fastest to... I think that's a typo. That's just a jumble of letters.
Are you sure? They're not just making up records that they broke?
Fastest film to RMB?
Yeah. Fastest film to...
Yeah.
We did it!
So, I mean, just record after record after record. And I am still, to this day, for whatever reason, fairly vividly remember what a big deal it was when Sam Raimi's Spider-Man broke 100 million in one weekend. And that was unheard of. It was several years before that was matched again. And now here we are. I mean, we're almost 20 years after that, but $350 million just in the U.S.
It's weird to think ahead of what could possibly come after this that could get that much money.
Well,
now, something probably will one day, but that's just.
I think this is going to set it for a while though, with all the hype and the decade
right.
build up. I
You're
mean,
right.
those are records that traditionally fall every few years. But
I was going to say, I feel like we've been in a run here, and I don't know traditionally and before I paid attention, but I feel like the early 2000s-ish started that run because we had like Star Wars movies, we started having the Marvel movies, we've had the Harry Potters, like some big franchises.
Well, and all the superhero
every
booms.
time they release one, it's like, oh, new segment, new starting, new opening date, new, and now I feel like that benchmark's been set. The Harry Potters are done. The Pirates are awful now.
But what about the new Avatar movies that are coming out? Are we in trouble with those?
Nobody's the movies that nobody is asking for and nobody knows is happening.
I'm a huge fan of Avatar and couldn't care less that there's a second one coming out, let alone 4 more.
You know what's crazy to me about Avatar? Like, that movie made so much money and broke all those records, but I feel like that's a movie that just faded away to nothingness.
Yeah.
Because aside from the fact that there's like a Disney Parks section based on Avatar now, nobody talks about Avatar.
Right. Yep.
You know what I mean? Like,
and
at
didn't
all.
really as soon as it went away.
Yeah.
And I'm not knocking on the film. The thing with Avatar and the way it made so much money, too, like, it didn't demolish a ton of records coming right out of the gate or anything like that. It just had staying power and worldwide appeal.
Yeah.
So it was in theaters for 6 months everywhere.
Right.
And it just kept building and building and building. And it's in the 2.7 billions is where it is. I feel
like a lot of Avatar goes to credit that it was the first good 3D too.
Yeah, that was a big deal.
Like,
right?
it was such a gimmick, and it was a good movie. I like the movie, like you, but like, it had that gimmick.
Yep.
That was the thing. It was mostly CGI, and the CGI, if you watch it now, like I watched it recently, the CGI is pretty dated.
Yeah.
Not bad, but dated.
Yeah.
I don't know why they're making more of these.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, I knew why they were.
A decade later.
Yeah.
Right.
I knew why they planned on making 2 more right away.
Right.
But now you've let it rest for 10 years.
Yep.
And like you said, it's not like, I mean, when you're talking about Spider-Man movies, you can come out with 3 franchises in 10 years and people will be annoyed, but they'll still go see them.
Yeah.
You can do a new Superman every decade and people will be, at least curious about it. I have no doubt Avatar 2 will make money.
Yeah, oh yeah.
But I just don't imagine there being lines around the corner and people, tons of people dressed as whatever those blue things were called.
Yeah.
The Na'vi.
I was about to say, I can't even imagine me remembering what those blue things are called until you reminded me.
Ferngully fairies. Right? Something like that.
Yeah. Well, also, it's important to, before we get too far off track, it's probably worth mentioning that they would just love to have another successful, even if it just, even if the best ones are only as successful as some of the Marvel movies, that's still a fairly solid franchise that any studio would love to have. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
Well, and Disney
I just
owns
don't
that
know
now
why
too,
they
right?
waited 10 years.
Well, Disney owns it now too.
Yeah.
It was part of the Fox acquisition.
Oh, that's right.
Isn't that Cameron's thing?
What?
10 years? 10 years? Wasn't it 10 years?
I was going to say, isn't there
a little
more?
bit more than that.
I was going to say, we're getting more
12,
Terminators too, right? Aren't we getting the new Terminator with him at the helm with
he's not
what's her name
directing,
coming back
but
though?
He's not direct, but he's producing.
Yeah.
He's way more involved than he has been with anything since 2, I think.
And aren't they doing that thing where they're making a direct
this year.
sequel to Judgment Day and ignoring the other stuff?
I think so.
Yeah.
It's going to be so bad.
But you
think?
I was gonna say you can totally do something like that with
I'm
time travel.
I was gonna say all those movies have kind of done that in a sense.
See, here's the problem is because Genesis erased 2. Genesis erased all the movies. Genesis erased the second half of 1 on.
Well, that's bonkers.
So they have to go back and erase Genesis, then re-go back and erase from 2 on. I don't know. It's timey-wimey.
Timey-wimey stuff. We're going to get into lots of timey-wimey stuff in this episode, I think.
Yeah, back to Endgame.
All right, so how do we want to even tackle this? Because I just think there's a lot of cool things to probably talk about without necessarily
that's probably the best thing we can do is just throw up. I'll be 100% honest with you. In about a year here, I'm going to be ready to either do a sequel to this episode or just replace this episode.
After you've seen it a bunch?
Yeah, because I want to see it more. I want to let more of it sink in. I don't understand parts of it still. I was making mental notes through the first half hour about some stuff I really wanted to nitpick.
Yeah.
Not like I was super upset with the first half hour by any means, but I caught several things where I was like, yeah. And I was also under that mindset where it was not going to be that as good as I was hoping, you know? And so through the first half hour, there were several times where I was like, yeah. But now I can't remember any of those because then I saw the rest of the movie.
So in the opening scene when Barton's family all disappeared, our friend who we talked about in the Ant-Man and Wasp episode, turned right around to me and immediately was like, "Where's John and his math now? 50%? Come on." And we high-fived.
Didn't that scene make my point?
Well, did it make your point that more than 50% of everybody we see disappeared?
My point was you can't go by the 50% thing with anything you're watching because when 50% of life disappears, it doesn't mean half of every room or half of every family. It means half of everybody altogether.
Yeah.
So entire families disappeared while entire families didn't at all. You know?
Yeah. And we're still mad about that.
Okay.
But the important part is I'm still right?
I think it's a situation where neither of us are wrong. We're saying it's stupid how this works. You're saying, well, that's how it would work.
That is how it would work.
Nobody said you were wrong then. Nobody said you were wrong then.
Why are we fighting? We have so much good to talk about.
Oh, man. Anyway, I thought that was a great way to start it.
Yeah.
Because he was the only one we haven't really seen affected by it yet.
Well, he was the only. He wasn't even in Infinity War.
They just referenced him being at home. Like they even made sure to show his little ankle bracelet and everything in this scene.
Which how come he was on house arrest so much longer than Scott?
Well, this would have been the same time, right?
Yeah.
I guess you're right. Scott got off of house arrest when Hope and you're right. I don't know.
But it was right around the same time.
Made a different deal.
Okay.
Made
He
a
lives
different
out
deal.
in the woods. He lives out in the woods. They just hadn't gotten to him yet.
He's got a bow and arrow. He's more dangerous.
He's a real Avenger. Scott Lang's just Scott Lang's just
he was just there that
also
day.
and he was just there that day.
It's just a longer drive. Wu was on his way there.
And then got Thanos, probably.
Yeah, exactly.
Wu got Thanos.
Otherwise, he would have showed up in that scene.
Can you imagine how pathetic that scene would have been? You just see him like driving and like his hand starts to go and he's just like, oh, what? Oh, man.
Maybe he like finally figured out the magic trick right as he starts getting Thanos.
He flips the card and his fingers disappear. He's like, I got it. Oh. Why wasn't that scene in there? I want it. Call the Russos.
Amazing. So the Avengers, we cut back to the Avengers, and this is like right after the events of the first movie, basically, right? Like they're just going straight in.
It's a few months later or something like that, isn't it? It's not like the next day.
It's right about a month.
Yeah,
20 something days.
Yes. They made reference to it. I remember.
Well, because we got to see that fun scene with Iron Man and Nebula up on the ship, like bonding and stuff, which was pretty fun.
Yep.
But then there was that part that we saw in the trailer where life support was running out, and Tony was sure that was it, and he was sending that message to Pepper, and then all of a sudden Captain Marvel showed up to save the day. This was kind of neat because we got that end credit scene in Captain Marvel with her showing up to meet the Avengers. And that ended up being just an end credit scene to set this up. That wasn't actually in this movie because her first appearance is her already saving Tony after she's already met the rest of the Avengers. So I thought that was cool. That worked out totally fine. But it was surprising because I thought they were doing that thing they've done a few times, like with Thor and Doctor Strange, being a scene from Ragnarok and stuff like that.
I would have liked to have seen the actual like meeting of Captain Marvel on screen. I think didn't affect me too terribly much, but I felt like if you hadn't seen Captain Marvel, and then that happened, you'd probably be more confused.
I think we're a step beyond caring if somebody hasn't seen one of the Marvel movies.
Well, that's my point, though. It's usually designed to where it really doesn't matter.
Right.
And I feel like this is one of the few times I can remember it jumping out at me as going, man, if I didn't know who this person was, I would be really confused right now.
Yeah.
Whereas normally they give me enough to where I go, okay, anybody who hasn't seen Doctor Strange is fine with this scene because it's just a wizard that's helping, you don't need to know who he is.
Or maybe it made a bunch of people go, I guess I better go watch Captain Marvel after this. And then the more people go see Captain Marvel. It's a plot because the movie's out at the same time.
I do see the way it affected. I don't know what I'm trying to say. I kind of wrote the end credits scene off because it had that feel of like I thought it felt like, well, this is obviously a scene from Endgame.
Yeah.
Right. And so like I just kind of like it almost made me not appreciate that scene as much because I was like, well, I'll like that. I'll be more excited about that when I'm watching
when
that
you're
whole
watching
movie,
the movie. Yeah.
You know, so like when they didn't give us that scene, I was kind of like, I wish I'd appreciated that end credit scene more. I didn't realize that was a whole scene.
So she rescues Tony and Nebula and brings them back to Earth, and we get the reunion, but things are not good, obviously, at this point.
Tony's still a little salty.
Tony is very salty, and we immediately get into him and Cap arguing again.
Which immediately just made me dislike Iron Man again.
Really? Yeah.
Well, because he got there right away. Like, he was being so genuine about everything, like on the ship and trying to send that recording and all that stuff. And then the second, like, he gets back to Earth and, like, sees his old friend, he just starts throwing blame around and getting super mad about everything.
Well, there was that moment right when they got off the ship, because it stood out to me because, it, like, he got off and, you know, he was saying that he was like, I couldn't stop him. I fought him. I couldn't, you know, and, like, the devastation in Tony Stark.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, took me aback. I was like, whoa. But then, as soon as they got him in IV and sat him down, he was total jerk again. Yeah. But
I was also real impressed with how sick they made him look. Like he looked so frail and skinny and just it was crazy looking. The moment he sat down, he just got mad and started yelling. He ripped his arc reactor thing off his chest and like put it in Cap's hand and then just passed out. That was crazy. Man. Was it? Oh no, because this is about the time where they go out. Was this after? This wasn't after they went after him, right? This was before.
No, this was before.
This was
because pretty much during like Tony has his little breakdown, and then Captain Marvel's like, "Well, this has been neat. I'm gonna go kill Thanos now."
Yeah.
Which was awesome. I was just like, they probably could just let her go.
Yeah, really, right? Well, and then like Thor was like sulking in the corner, like he's obviously been having a hard time dealing with the fact that he didn't go for the head.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't end Thanos.
They were all kind of blaming themselves, except for Tony, who was blaming all of them.
Yeah,
you know?
totally.
And he was blaming himself too, I guess. But
yeah. So then they go. Then this is where they track down Thanos. They find out where he's gone because the stones were used again, right? And that's how they were able to track him.
Well, Nebula
was great.
Yeah,
what they did there with that.
Yeah. And Nebula knew, right? Yeah. So like Nebula knew, and then reading the power source confirmed it, right?
Because he had always talked about. Well, she said he would talk out loud while he was tinkering with her, basically. So she'd be taken apart, and he'd be working on her, and she'd just be listening to him talk about his plan and where he would go afterwards.
Which is another funny thing. You know, I talked in Infinity War about how I just wanted to imagine Thanos making that soup for Gamora.
Yeah,
like she'll love this. She always loved this when she was a kid.
Yeah.
So now I'm imagining Thanos talking to himself as he's putting Nebula back together. You know, I can't believe I'm dealing with this stuff. One of these days, I'm going to have those stones. I'm going to snap everything out of existence. And then, you know what? I'm just going to go to the garden. That's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to go hang out. I'm going to be a farmer.
Oh, my God. Oh, man. So they track him down on this planet, and they find him. and when we see him, he's like super weak looking, and his arm is like fried and
which I thought was
looking,
because of the first snap.
Yeah.
Originally, like when we first saw him, I was like, man, that thing did do a number on him.
Yeah.
Which also was that part of the comics. Like the Infinity Gauntlet just destroying whoever was using it?
I'm not entirely sure.
Because I love that.
Yeah.
Not Thanos.
Okay.
Because in the comics, when Thanos had it, at least the first time he had it, he did a whole bunch of stuff. Like he snapped everything out of existence. He made himself Eternity. I think he made himself Eternity for a little bit. Like he was just all around doing that. Oh, that's how he became. That's how he dropped it, because he was doing all kinds of stuff, and the Celestials came and they were like, "Hey, you can't do all this stuff, man. Like unless you're gonna be Eternity." And he was like, "Cool, I'll just be Eternity." And then he became Eternity, but then he didn't have the glove on, and that's when,
That's crazy. He outdid himself. That's like the.
That feels like genie rules.
I was gonna say it's Jafar making the wish to be a genie and then going into the lamp. Yeah, it's the same thing. Man,
phenomenal cosmic power.
Itty bitty living space. So once they get to him, they're basically like, "Where's the stones?" And he's like, "They're gone." Like, what are you talking about? We saw you used them again. And he was like, "I used them to destroy themselves. They're dust now," or whatever. So basically,
nothing can be undone.
Yeah, nothing can be. He did that so that nothing could be undone, which is so, man, diabolical, man. He's just like, "No, this is permanent. I don't even care."
Well, and also, here again, this is why I love everything they've done with Thanos. Because now I just imagine, because that was like a month later. So Thanos was just walking around the garden for a month, and all of a sudden one day he was like, "Oh, what if somebody undoes it?"
Well, because he also says when he's talking about it, he's like, all they are now at this point is temptation to use them.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know. Like, I don't remember how he said it, but he's basically like, they're too powerful even for me, and I'm just sitting here tempted to use them. So to make sure I can't do anything else either, I just destroyed them.
So that's even better, because now I imagine him walking around the garden going, "I don't like the color of that flower.
Yeah.
I wish that was a watermelon tree." Hold on a second.
Except it's more like,
It hurts every time. At least I got these watermelons now.
He did that. He did that for 3 full weeks until he realized he could snap the pain away. And as soon as he did that, he was like, "Oh no, I shouldn't know this." Now all the checks and balances are gone. I got to get rid of these things.
Right.
Oh man.
So,
but this is one of the big kind of oh crap moments, right? Because as soon as he basically tells them that the stones are gone, and they kind of get to that point where they believe it, Thor just comes and lobs his head right off, clean off.
Somebody just goes, "What are you doing?" He goes, "I went for the head."
Yeah, man.
And I tell you what, credits could have rolled right then.
Yeah,
I just stood up and went, "Money well spent,"
Well,
and went about my day.
It was awesome.
Yeah,
it was so cool. But this is where we flash forward 5 years, and that was pretty cool. Like when that popped up on the screen, I was like, "What? 5 years? That's pretty amazing." I wasn't expecting this big of a time jump.
Yeah.
Like to know that like what Thanos has done has been like there's been some serious repercussions for 5 years now.
And this is where like a little bit of my nitpicking came out. I remember because I remember looking at that thing, and I feel like I would have believed this more if it was like 2 years or something. Like not that the whole world would get over it in 5 years. Right. I'm good with all the grief counseling and stuff like that. That made sense. But like they went and flew over that empty Citi Field stadium, and then that guy was even talking about like, "I miss baseball." Like, I promise you, if half the population disappears tomorrow,
right,
5 years from now, we'll have pro baseball.
Yeah.
Like 1 or 2 years. Maybe not, but 5 years from now,
I felt that way about like how desolate everything
exactly.
looked.
You know, like it was just a little too much for
like
too long.
A lot of those people who were snapped out of existence, their cars were parked. Like the streets are all lined with cars. You know what I mean? Like, like and if they snapped out of existence, their keys are in the car. So we just move that or drive it.
Yeah. It's like people as a race, we go through terrible things and then we move on somehow. Yeah. And again, I understand the magnitude of this.
Yeah.
Like I get that nothing the world has ever seen would be anything like half of it disappearing.
Right.
But at the same time, like you said, somebody's going to clean up the streets by then.
Yeah.
You know, it's not going to look like I Am Legend when there's only one person walking around. There's still a ton of people.
Or, you know, they could have explained that by showing some kind of contrast, you know, like maybe that city just couldn't be repopulated, so they just left it to rot, right?
Oh, yeah.
But then we need to see, like, well, where is everybody then? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, like, I'm with you on that, because I was sitting there going, this is, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so we kind of get a glimpse, though, at how everybody's dealing with this, too, like on the team itself, right? Because, like you mentioned, the grief counseling, and, like, Steve's kind of helping to lead these grief counseling sessions, and Widow is still hanging out at Avengers HQ and trying to, like, coordinate stuff. Like, she's doing regular check-ins with the Guardians and Captain Marvel and stuff like that.
The Guardians, who are Nebula and Rocket.
Yeah, Nebula and Rocket.
Which, for the record, I want to see that movie real bad, too.
Yeah.
Just Nebula and Rocket.
Yep.
I mean, if they're going to start making Disney Plus shows, why not that one?
But she's obviously kind of in that same stage of grief. She's blaming herself. And this is also where we learn that they're on to Clint.
Yeah.
Clint's out there being the Punisher, basically. He's out there trying to just murder every person that he considers a bad guy in the world as a way to not feel so bad about his family being gone.
It's a coping mechanism.
Yeah.
Well, and it's, and I totally get it.
Our own ways.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what? I feel that. I think we would all be even super petty about that, you know, when our, you know, uncle, who was a social worker and ran whatever, you know, charity, blinked out of existence, and then the cokehead down the street who, you know, parks his car on his front lawn is still
coking it up.
Wandering around with 50% more coke to, you know, smell we would hate that guy.
Yeah, definitely.
A little more. We would hate that guy 50% more.
Yeah. And I like this part too, because like Natasha obviously wants to be the one that finds him, right? Like she wants to go talk to him, she wants to save him, kind of a thing. Which goes back to the bond that they've had. You know, they've built that up over all the movies too. So yeah, this whole part we're just kind of seeing how sad everything is basically, and how depressed everybody is over the whole thing.
So we should start. Are we going to start jumping around?
Yeah, let's start jumping around.
Because I want to talk about Clint.
Okay.
Because he is one of
Ronin,
Hawkeye, Barton. He's been one of my favorite characters.
Mm-hmm.
I really liked everything they've done with him. I mean, everybody loved him in Ultron.
Yeah,
right.
Dude. Yeah, that was like his movie.
Yeah. I liked him before Ultron, and I liked the idea. I really liked the idea that they kind of introduced where elite people could hang with the superheroes.
Yeah.
You know, so I really liked that him and Black Widow were just part of the Avengers. You know, even though he was just an elite, you know, assassin, and you know, same for her. So I really liked that about Clint. I did not. I think his story in this though was one of the weak points of the movie. I did not feel like, so when we first see him, he's Ronin, and he's murdering the first time we hear about him after the opening scene, first time we hear about him is there's a whole cartel piled in in one room or something, right?
Yeah.
And they're just like, no doubt it's Barton. And then the next time, you know, we see him, he's murdering his way through an entire Yakuza, right?
Yeah.
And murdering everybody.
Yeah.
Right? And you know, he's all dark and brooding. And when Natasha shows up and she's like, you know, we need your help. We think you have a plan. He's like, don't give me hope. But then he's almost immediately just back to being regular Hawkeye. Mm-hmm. You know, I thought that was super weak. You know, like there was it was rushed. There was no real turning point for him. You know, just like all of a sudden he's back and he's normal. And you know, he makes one comment at the end when we get to the one moment where he's like, you know what I've become. Let me do this. Yeah. You know, but
that's one of those like I get where they're going with that storyline and I like it fine, but they don't give us enough of it.
Right.
And you know. Yep. When your movie's 3 hours, I guess you got to cut a few things for time, but this was like the heart and soul of one of your movies.
Yeah.
You'd think you can add 5 minutes of exposition for him, which is all it would have taken.
Right.
You know?
Well, and if he hadn't been if he hadn't been the Hawkeye that we fell in love with in Ultron, the kind of quippy, kind of funny, if he was just Ronin murdering anybody who got in his way, you know what I mean? It would have had so much more impact when we get to the end and his family comes back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I thought that was a weak point.
Spoiler alert.
We said we were going to start jumping around.
Yeah, this is full spoilers. I hope nobody's listening to this at this point going, wait, what? So I guess we should also go ahead and talk about Ant-Man's return.
Yep.
Because we talked about that in the Ant-Man episode, wondering how the heck he was going to get out of the quantum realm, and it turns out the answer is a rat.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just bouncing around inside the van. The rat saved the universe, you guys.
Which is another complaint I'm going to make.
Go ahead. Go for it.
I just think I thought that was totally weak. I think they could have... He came back by himself the first time. I feel like they could have given him a little more agency and, letting him bring himself back. Once he gets down there and realizes he can't talk to anybody, he's not just going to sit there and be like, oh, I don't know what to do. You know what I mean? Like, he's been down there before.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So I felt like it would have been better for him to have jumped himself back rather than the cheesy, an ant walked across the...
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And also, if that van was in storage for 5 years, nothing on that van works anymore.
Yeah.
Sorry guys.
Oh.
We live in the real world.
Also, how come none of the streets got cleaned, but they moved that van off the whatever rooftop garage it was on or whatever?
Yeah.
And into a storage facility.
Right.
Yeah, totally.
That had his name on it. How did they even know it was his van? I don't know. It's weird.
Shouldn't have been Luis's van? I thought that was Luis's van.
I think so, but
That's
his name was on the storage.
Totally.
thing.
Yeah, it was in a Lang storage thing. Oh, wait. Maybe I guess his family found it and put it there. Because they were probably
Cassie's
still alive.
Around,
Yeah.
They didn't show his wife.
They didn't show his wife,
Yeah.
but I guess maybe we could assume that they must have been there if Cassie was still living with them.
She probably wasn't living on her own. So
Yeah.
she was
Because it was the same house still that she was living in. I don't know. Whatever.
Yeah.
Because that's probably what happened there. But I guess one of the other important things that was brought up with that whole thing is that he was only down there for 5 hours.
Right.
Yeah.
And
That's
so
how he knew time travel would be.
So he came back and it was 5 years later, but to him it had only been 5 hours. And they've kind of talked about that in the Ant-Man movies, how time's different in the quantum realm, things happen differently, things move around. They definitely set all this up in those movies. And I don't know why. I just didn't really see this coming as the big, the quantum realm. I think
really?
We talked about the quantum realm probably having some importance in this, but I think my prediction always had something to do with the time stone or something, making time travel possible.
See, I thought we were predicting the quantum.
Well, we definitely talked
from the
about
first Ant-Man.
Okay.
I feel like in the first Ant-Man, we were
and we definitely talked about the quantum realm being obviously important in the podcasts when we were talking about it. So this was our confirmation that they were setting all that up, and that ends up being the big thing. And then when they go to talk to Tony about it, so they go meet Tony, and he's living off and out in the woods now, kind of isolated himself. Him and Pepper are married. They have a little kid now.
Named after her weird uncle.
Yeah. So they go to meet up with him and they have this conversation basically where they're like, hey, Scott's got this crazy idea that we want you to listen to. And he blows it off pretty quick.
Yeah.
But it obviously gets in his head because then we see him tinkering with trying to figure out if the quantum realm could actually be used for time travel. Yep. And then he figures it out because he's Tony Stark.
He just figures it out right away.
He just figures it out because he's Tony.
Yeah, I wondered how much time was supposed to have passed between that two because it was like later that evening.
Well, I assume there's some time here because everybody else when Tony shoots him down, which before we breeze on past that, I want to point out, they always kind of draw those parallels between Tony and Thanos.
Yeah.
Thanos accomplished his mission, went to live on a farm in the garden, right?
Yeah.
Tony failed his mission, went to live on a farm with Pepper.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I always think it's neat that they maintained that.
Yeah, totally.
Okay, so the rest of the team, Tony shoots him down. The rest of the team goes out to Bruce Banner. They find Bruce Banner.
Oh, yes.
Who is, because they even say, we just need a brain as big as his or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Which I think is interesting. And I don't remember if we talked about this before. maybe during Ultron. But I always feel like everybody acts like Bruce Banner is as smart as Tony Stark, but the movies don't treat him that way at all. Like he's almost, you know what I mean? It always creates kind of a disconnect to me.
They always give Tony those like light bulb moments where he figures stuff out like that.
Right.
But like even Tony treats Banner as an equal,
yes,
more than anyone else he ever talks to.
Yeah.
Like literally through the entire run of movies,
for sure.
And they work together on stuff. So I always felt that was kind of one of those narrative things and I don't think Banner is supposed to be as smart as Stark.
Yeah.
But I think he's in that realm. And I think it's just one of those where like you don't see Banner fiddling with new projects trying to figure other stuff out. Banner's just always trying to solve that one problem that he's never been able to solve.
That's fair.
Whereas Tony is just thinking of new things as they come and figuring them out as they go.
Yeah. That's fair, and I'll accept that as an explanation. It just always created like a disconnect with me.
Yeah.
Because when people would be like, "Oh, Bruce Banner," and guys like Tony Stark, Bruce Banner, or whatever they would say.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I don't know, guys.
So it's in this scene that we also get to learn that Bruce Banner and Hulk have come to an agreement, and we have our smart Hulk now. We have Professor Hulk in the movie. So he's got the brains of Banner, but the size and strength of Hulk. This was awesome. I feel like this is something we definitely predicted. We've definitely talked about it happening. And there it is. We've got ourselves a smart Hulk, which is just such a fun new take on the character in the movie. I had so much fun watching him in this. I thought he was hilarious.
I liked him a lot in the movie. I was a little... It's weird to me because Banner and Hulk have been two different characters this entire run of movies.
Yeah.
And then Infinity War happened, and obviously Hulk, did his shtick in Infinity War where he just refused to come out for whatever reason. And I felt like there was a mystery around that in Infinity War a little bit. Like, Banner didn't know why Hulk wouldn't come out. They never really gave us a good explanation. Maybe he was scared. Maybe he was just upset with Banner, maybe whatever. And then when we start this one, he just is Professor Hulk. And they give you the explanation like, I went to a lab and I figured it out. You know, and like I was looking at it the wrong way the whole time, and now I figured this out, and it's great. And that's great, but it never gives me any closure to that mystery of why Hulk wouldn't come out. And it means, like, the last time we saw, like, the Hulk was an entire movie of just him being...
The Hulk.
Well, no.
Being a coward?
Yeah, being a coward, basically.
Not refusing to
come out. It was all of
Infinity
Infinity War with him just not allowing it to happen.
Yeah.
And so I feel like there was a lack of closure to that side of the character.
Absolutely. And I would say that this is like I'm a little mad about that.
Yeah.
This is the one thing, like I actually have several nitpicks. We've talked about some already with Endgame. This is the one where I'm like, I'm unhappy about that because I didn't get that closure. I feel like we deserve right, like as much as we deserve anything, right? We we as fans deserve to have seen how that happened.
Like the moment,
like
the moment where he made the transformation, or whatever.
Even
if we would have got it, like everybody assumed he was going to come bursting out of that Hulkbuster in Infinity War. And even if they found a way to do it there where he came bursting out as Smart Hulk, like that would have been cool, right? We totally would have marked out for that.
Yep.
And we didn't really, that's what it is. We didn't really get that mark out moment. We didn't get that moment to like get excited that he'd accomplished it. It's just there
and
already.
even more so, like not only did we not get that big mark out moment, it was basically like the introduction was played off as a gag.
Yeah.
Which I mean, the gag
He's sitting there eating 100 burritos.
But, all those kids though wanted to get pictures with him because he was the Hulk. Ant-Man was like, "You want to get pictures with me too? I'm Ant-Man." They were like, "No."
Who?
Also, he's been gone for 5 years, so those kids totally would have no idea who he is, right?
Well, I also like that Hulk was like trying to, like, don't you want a picture?
With, you want a picture with Ant-Man? Yeah. And that kid was like, no.
He's like, "I'll do it."
Like, just take the phone. Take the phone.
Oh man, that was awesome. They went to talk to him first, and then the Tony thing happened. And then we get some cute stuff with Tony and his kid, which kind of sets that whole like emotional stuff into play with Tony, because you see how he's really moved on and he's got this family now and he's happy and his kid's awesome, and then he tells Pepper that he figured out the time travel thing, and she's basically like, tells him that he's got to do what he's got to do, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Like she's kind of like, look, you got to be Iron Man then.
Yeah. Which I liked a lot because
Yeah.
you know, it's even the last time we saw her was when he was on that spaceship in Infinity War, and she's basically telling him,
Yeah.
you better get back here. You
Yeah.
can't do this, even
Yeah.
though what he's doing is saving the world, and the only, you know, when he's the only one who can do it.
Yeah.
And so I had that fear that they were gonna try to turn her into like the nagging,
The shrew.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
But nope, he was like, hey, all this terrible things, I might be able to fix it. And she's like, well, then you got to go fix it. you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So-
Yeah.
And she was real nonchalant about it. Like she's come to terms over these 5 years
Right.
with how this works.
So I was worried pretty instantly when they were talking about this, because I was like, oh man, well, if he's going to go help and they're going to undo it, like, doesn't that make his kid disappear?
Yep.
Like, that's terrible.
Yep.
Like, I would not want to be in that
Yep.
position at all. But then, like, they made sure to, like, that was, like, one of his motives through the whole thing, because he kept saying, like, make sure you just bring them back. Don't, like, undo what was done,
Right.
because he didn't want to lose his daughter or the things he had gained in the time that all this has happened. So, like, that was kind of one of his very important points that he kept making.
Just around here, we start to learn the rules of time travel in the
this
MCU,
movie.
which
Yeah.
I would love to explain to you. The internet would love to,
Yeah.
but I don't get them.
Yeah, it's interesting stuff, and they've totally kind of gone by their own rules, and I've seen a lot of people talking about it, and it's almost one of those things like you just kind of have to go with it and accept what they've thrown
Well,
out.
I'm not.
Like,
I'll clarify. I'm not upset by them. I'm not
Yeah.
saying they don't make sense. I've seen it one time, and I was on such a nerd high,
Right.
that there's no way I could have fathomed it. So I'm sure they're fine. I just don't get them yet.
So I kind of felt like they presented two different hypotheses, whatever. I almost felt like they were kind of convoluting it to say, like, look, we're gonna do this stuff. Nobody really knows how it works, because Hulk is talking about it when he starts zapping Scott to an old man and then a baby, and then
yeah.
Hulk is kind of talking about how time travel should work. Scott Lang is kind of not talking, he's kind of saying things, but he's not really talking about how it should work. Then Tony shows up to fix it and explains how it works, right? But then when later when we meet the wizard,
the ancient one?
the ancient one, later when they go back to the ancient one, I felt like what she said was different. So
Very well may be.
I think the explanation, well, because like they went out of their way to name like every pop culture movie that's got time travel in it to tell us that those are all wrong and that's not how time travel really works. Like they were really throwing that out there. Because there's even that part where Ant-Man's like, we'll do it right. We won't talk to ourselves in the past. And Tony was just like, that. Are you worried about Back to the Future happening? Like he like made that joke, you know? He's like, that's not how it works. Like Hulk tells them right before they're getting ready to go on the mission that like the way it really works is that if you travel to the past, the present then becomes your past and the past becomes your new future. You can't change things that have already happened in your timeline.
Right.
And then I think the ancient one kind of elaborates on that because when Hulk's trying to convince her that he needs the time stone, she's like, but that's going to put my timeline in jeopardy if the time stone's not here. And I think she kind of explains it as, well, it's a different timeline that's been splintered off. So I think what's going on is these are all alternate timelines to the main timeline that we're used to, which, to be fair, is not a thing that's uncommon for comic books at all.
But they make a big deal in this movie about having to take certain steps to make sure that they don't branch the timelines and create all these offshoots, and then they do stuff that has to have.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And
I think that's kind of the point.
Yeah, I do too. Honestly, I feel like that could be potential setting up for some things and stuff like that. They kind of have that line, and I know we're jumping way ahead now, but they do talk about like the importance of having to return the stones to the moments that they stole them so that it didn't endanger those timelines, but I'm not sure if that meant like wiping them out or just making sure they were safe. Because it definitely seems like those alternate timelines would still have to exist, right? Especially with our ending that we get, changes, right? Yeah.
But when she was showing the little magic graphic, she was basically showing like the line diverging and then coming back
back together.
Right. So it wasn't being created.
So there's definitely some There's got to be some intricacies there that we just have to ignore.
I really liked the moral dilemma of that point, though.
Yeah.
Like when he's talking to the Ancient One, and he's like, "You just got to give me that thing so I can save everybody." And she's like, "Well, you're not saving everybody. You're saving everybody in your timeline and destroying a bunch of others. And I can't sacrifice all of these other people and all of these other timelines just because yours got messed up."
Yeah. I guess we should throw out real quick as we're getting into this section. Like that's the goal they end up going on, is they're all going to use this time travel method to go to various points in time where they know that the stones are all at. So basically, we're going to get like a greatest hits moment here, where they're going back to all these different movies where we've seen the stones.
The clip show act.
And this is really where it diverges from what I assumed the movie would be about. Because it's what every time travel movie is about. How do we fix what happened in the past? And they made a very clear goal that they're not fixing, like they're not erasing the snap. They're just going to bring everybody back. So it'll still be this weird, desolate world that no one bothered to clean up while they were gone. It'll just have all the people back.
That'll go well.
So in that moment there, though, the Ancient One, I want to talk about that some more, because this is the team of Cap and Iron Man and Hulk. Is it just those three?
Yep.
They go back to the New York incident. So we get
Scott-Man, Ant-Man. Scott-Man.
Yeah, Scott-Man.
And Scott-Man.
Ant-Man's there too.
Hulk goes to see the
right.
Ancient One. The other is
the others
Iron
are
Man, Hulk,
trying to get
and Captain America are trying to get the Tesseract and the Loki staff.
Right. So they know that the Tesseract, the Loki staff, which is the Mind Stone, and the Time Stone, are all in New York.
Which was fun because I think it was the Hulk who realized it, because somebody made a comment about Doctor Strange living on Bleecker Street or whatever, and he's like, so I think it was the Hulk was like, so I mean, if we go back to just the right time, 3 of those things were in New York.
Yeah, I think I think it was Widow who pointed that out.
Was it Widow?
Yeah.
So this was a fun moment, because we get our little flashback to the 2012 Avengers movie here. And they come right in and they show like the big team up pan moment, which is really neat. So they're in the middle of the fight right here, and then off in an alley, our heroes just pop up here, and they kind of set in motion their plans, because excuse me, Cap's in charge of going to get the staff. Iron Man and Ant-Man are going to go get the Tesseract, and Hulk needs to go find Doctor Strange to get the Time Stone. I love this scene here because he's getting ready to go out there in the streets, and they're like, you should probably do a little bit of smashing while you're out there. And like he like tears his shirt off and he's all upset about it. Well, he gets all embarrassed when he sees Hulk first, right? Yeah. Because they pop in and we get this scene of Hulk, which wasn't in the other Avengers.
Right. But was amazing.
He's just jumping up and down like on the one.
Like there's one Chitauri guy,
one
he smashes it with an entire like taxi, and then jumps up and down on the taxi a bunch, just like destroys this guy for a solid 45 seconds, and then just storms off.
And he like covers his face like he's all embarrassed of watching himself. It's amazing. But that's when they tell him he's basically got to blend in. So like he tears his shirt off. I love that because he just walks out in the street and goes, "Rrr," and like smashes a car kind of. And he just looks so annoyed with the whole thing. It's amazing. It's so good. But he jumps off then to go to Bleecker Street to find the Sanctum Sanctorum, where he thinks he's going to find Doctor Strange, but instead he finds the Ancient One on the rooftop fighting off the Chitauri.
Which is awesome.
And I love this so much. So much, because even back when we first saw Avengers and we knew that there was potential other characters in this world that we hadn't met yet, I remember talking about and having discussions back then about, well, if this big thing's happening in New York, there's got to be other people out there fighting this, right? And sure enough, here we got the Ancient One protecting Sanctum Sanctorum from the Chitauri. I loved this. I thought that was so amazing to see another perspective of the big battle of New York. It was so awesome.
And I just thought it was phenomenally awesome to see the Ancient One again. That was so cool. That was so cool, and like it just kept getting cooler, because he even like the Hulk drops in and he's like, I'm looking for Doctor Strange, and she's like, Dr. Stephen Strange? You're about 5 years too early.
Yeah.
I was like, this is amazing. What are we doing here?
That was great too, because they're having the whole conversation that you brought up about the Time Stone and why he needs it. And when he basically got to the point that Doctor Strange handed the Time Stone over to Thanos, like she just stopped immediately, and she was just like, he just gave it to him.
Yeah.
Like he's meant to be the best of us, so there must have been a reason for that. And she immediately just like pulls the stone out and gives it to Hulk.
I'm getting chills right
it's
now.
It's crazy,
well,
dude. It was so awesome, man.
Well, that also sets up why she was so hesitant with him,
right?
Because she doesn't think he made the right decision.
Yeah.
Because she even says, you know, he was supposed to be the best of us. You know, and Hulk's like, well, maybe he made a mistake, and she was like, or I did. So that fully explains why she is so hesitant to let him in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's just an awesome little intricacy to
that.
Oh,
how she's hesitant to let him in 5 years later.
Yeah,
when he comes
5 years later.
That's amazing.
Right.
Oh, my God. Oh, wow. Okay, cool. See, now the time travel's getting crazy with all this. Starting to affect other movies and stuff. Oh, man, that's great. That's great. So that was a great exchange. I loved that a lot. Everything we got to see here was so much fun, though. We got to see the Avengers after they won, like the part where they were surrounding Loki.
Right.
Oh, which was so great. And I love how Iron Man's just like, all right, enough posing, guys. Let's just wrap this up or whatever.
Somebody says something about one comes next or whatever, and I think it was Tony who was like, well, we're going to go grab some dinner. And then, figure out what's next or whatever.
Yeah.
So they just set up their own shawarma scene.
Yeah, totally. Well, and then they all get in the elevator and they tell Hulk there's no room for him, so he's got to take the stairs, which is just amazing, dude. Like, what? They kept cutting to Hulk angrily walking down those stairs and just being so mad. So many stairs. It was amazing. Oh my God.
It's a great scene. Well, that's also the scene where Iron Man tells Cap that doesn't do anything his suit doesn't do anything for his butt.
Yeah.
Like, your butt looks terrible in that. Scott Lang's like, I think that's America's butt.
Yeah. Oh my God, that was amazing. Yeah, that was another fun part though, because Cap goes in to get the staff and then ends up facing off with himself from the past.
Well, you have to explain how all that goes down because it fits together so well,
dude. So I forgot about that part just for a second, but I remember it.
So they go down. So Iron Man and Scott are supposed to. So Cap goes into the elevator.
Yeah.
And it's all the guys that were in the elevator scene from
Winter Soldier.
Winter
Soldier.
Yeah, because Crossbones and the rest of those, Shield guys, quote unquote.
So at this point they were all Shield,
right?
Yeah.
So they have the scepter.
Yeah, he gets into the elevator with them, and he's like, "Hey, I got a word from the director. He wants me to take care of the scepter." And they're all like, "No, probably not." And Jasper Sidwell was in there.
Yep.
And because he leans over, he's like, "Nope, don't worry about it. It's okay." Because he's like, Jasper's like, "I got to call this in." And he's like, "Nope, don't worry about it. Everything's fine." And he leans over and just goes, "Hail Hydra." And like half the elevator just kind of looks at him because at this point in the universe, S.H.I.E.L.D. doesn't know about Hydra.
Yeah.
So if Captain America does, then he must have talked to the director.
Yep, he must be
and
one
he
of
must
us.
have actually gotten the orders. And so they just go ahead and give him the briefcase.
Yep.
But that moment, though, like, Jaron and I both marked out so hard the moment he walked into that elevator because it was the reverse of the scene from Winter Soldier, because he walked in and stood in the middle of them the same way they all got on the elevator with him in that movie. And they were all kind of like looking around scared that Cap was on the elevator with him. And I was just like, oh my God, this is going to be the same scene, but the opposite way. This is going to be amazing.
I got real excited that they were going to try to recreate that for some reason. I'm like, this doesn't make any sense narratively, but I don't care.
Right.
And then they did that instead. I'm like, that's fine too.
Yeah, it was great. But then he got to face off with himself.
Well, hold on, because then we still have to go down and because Scott Man and Iron Man go down. Scott Man. I'm just gonna keep doing that.
I like it.
Scott Man and Iron Man keep going down to try or they go down to the lobby to try and get the
Tesseract.
The Tesseract. They have some little scheme. They get the Tesseract, but then Hulk comes out the stairs, the fire escape door, and knocks Tony Stark over.
Walking by and the door flies open and sends Tony flying.
And Hulk comes out, yells at some people.
Yeah.
The Tesseract rolls away, and Loki, who is down there all
in handcuffs
and gagged, he grabs it and disappears. So they call in. Loki just escaped with the Tesseract, and so then when we get Cap, the Cap from that timeline, calls in. He's like, nope, I've got eyes on Loki.
Yeah, he thinks the other Cap is Loki in disguise.
Right.
Oh,
Which is
amazing.
like just the way. Like I was watching that whole thing, and I was like, this is all just brilliant. This is awesome.
Yeah, so good.
Yeah,
dude, they get in that little fight, and then the Cap from 2012 does the whole "I could do this all day," and modern Cap goes, "I know." But man, that Loki moment was another one that we were just like, as soon as it happened, because how great is it that Loki stole the Tesseract again? Again!
Yep.
And
how great is it that him having a TV show makes sense now?
Yes, that's totally what they set up with that, right? Like he's in an alternate timeline.
Right.
We're gonna have a Loki that stole the Tesseract right there, and wow, holy cow! So that was all amazing stuff. All amazing stuff. So they lost the Tesseract. But they got the staff, and they got this time stone. But they realized at this point that they lost a Tesseract, so they've only got they each only have one Pym particle vial each. So that's all they need that to get back to their time. So that's when Tony realizes that he thinks he knows a place where there's both more Pym particles and the Tesseract at the same point.
Yeah.
So Ant-Man goes back to the normal
Ant-Man
time,
and the Hulk
both leave with the time stone and the staff. And Cap and Iron Man decide to go to this new point, which is back in 1970 at the bunker where S.H.I.E.L.D. started, which was really cool. So we had never seen this before, but we had seen this bunker before.
Yeah, a couple times. We saw it in the 40s.
Yep.
And in the aughts.
Yep.
And now in the 70s.
Yep. Yep. So pretty cool stuff.
And we also get our, I believe, final Stan Lee cameo.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's supposed
weak.
to be the last one.
Can't be helped, but it was a weak
Yeah,
one. It was a weak
like,
one to end on.
Yeah, I thought it was a really fun cameo, but knowing it's his last, there, I mean, and like you said, what are you gonna do?
Yeah,
well, it reminds me of the Undertaker's streak because we had so many strong ones. But then it kind of they ended weak. You know what I mean? Like the last one was not the best one.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So this is all pretty crazy stuff because we get a lot of neat things going on here. We get to see young Hank Pym again, which is just so creepy. Seeing young Michael Douglas walking around there.
Well, and he had that hair.
Yeah.
He had that hair that was it was just like Ego's hair when he was on Earth.
Yes.
In the 70s. That was the first thing I thought. I was like, did Ego meet him and be like, that's a good look.
Yeah. So Cap snuck in there pretty quick and was able to get the vials that they needed, the Pym particles. But we get that neat moment where he ducks into an office, which turns out to be Peggy Carter's office.
Yeah, and we got more Community cameos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We got Ken Jeong earlier at the junkyard where Scott's van was. And then we got Shirley here, Yvette Nicole Brown. There we go.
Yeah.
There you go.
She was in the elevator with him and
this is
something.
when I saw Ken Jeong, I was like, awesome, they got another one in because the Russos always seem to get one in.
Yeah.
And then when I saw her, I'm like, this is their last chance. We got to get Joel McHale in here somewhere. Sadly, no.
So yeah, we have that cool moment where he ducks into Peggy's office and he sees Peggy.
Yeah.
Like through the blinds, like doing work and stuff, and that was just kind of another one. I was like, "Oh my God, Peggy!" Every time Peggy shows up, you just get so excited.
Well, and at the same time, we have Tony running into one of his dads.
Yes, one of his dads. This was awesome though too, man. What a great scene that was. It's like Tony got his closure with his dad here. Because they have that long discussion after he stole the Tesseract out of the safe,
and like his dad, his dad was very Howard Stark, but not like in the jerk manner.
Yeah,
like it was because I kept being afraid that they were gonna play some gag where Howard just started complaining about everything and then figured something was wrong and ends up like sending the guards after him or. Right. Who knows? But no, they really did. They just played out the tender, nice moments.
Yeah.
And but they did it in a way where they also didn't diminish. Because you don't expect Howard Stark to be the type of guy who just meets someone and bears his heart out either.
Right.
And so in my mind, I'm already going, either way this goes, I don't like it. And then they just ran right up the middle. Yeah. And I liked it a lot.
Yeah. It was fun. I thought it was great. And Tony got to give him the big hug at the end, which was awkward for Howard, but it was cool. We got to see Jarvis from Peggy Carter, which was cool. Yeah. Which was cool. And I think somebody had said that he's like the only character who's crossed over from any of the Marvel TV shows into the movies now, from that direction.
I guess so.
I think he might be. That's pretty crazy to think about.
There's been some from the movies go back to the TV show.
Right, but nobody that's been from the shows to the movies except for Jarvis now. So, but I just thought all that was really cool. But they succeeded there. They got their Tesseract. So our other time travel stuff saw Nebula and
War
Machine go to, what was the name of that planet? They're basically in Guardians of the Galaxy 1.
I don't remember the name of the
more something.
So it's
maybe
it's the planet where Star-Lord found
the orb
with the stone in it.
Right.
Yeah, from the first movie. And this was awesome too, because this was another one of those amazing scenes where we got to see another perspective on the intro. So they're watching him like he's doing his whole dance with the song playing and everything, singing and dancing around, but then they cut back to Nebula and War Machine watching him, and you just hear him like badly singing and there's no music and he's dancing around.
He's got that rat.
He's got that rat in his hand. It was amazing.
War Machine looks at Nebula and he goes, "So he's an idiot."
Yeah. It was so fantastic.
Yeah.
And then they just take him out with a punch too.
Yeah, War Machine punches him and knocks him out.
War Machine just punched him and knocked him out, and they got it.
They go and grab the orb.
Morag. That's the name of it.
Okay.
Yeah, that was amazing, dude. That was amazing.
I loved it. When they flashed back over to those guys and they were just standing there watching them dance.
Dude.
With no music, and my brain immediately connected it. So happy.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
So we also, because Hawkeye and Black Widow come back with them, and then jump in the ship to go to Vormir to get the Soul Stone,
which is in the same. They're actually in the same timeline basically for that. Yeah. So they fly off to do that, but this is where something crazy happens because they got the orb, and right as they go to warp back to the real timeline, War Machine leaves, but Nebula has some kind of weird malfunction, which then cuts us over to the Nebula and the Gamora hanging out with Thanos at the time, right as he's telling them to go
hang out with Ronin.
Go
help Ronin.
Go help Ronin and find the stone or whatever, because this is all like getting ready to happen with Guardians there. All of a sudden, she starts playing that Nebula. Past Nebula starts playing projections from current Nebula, showing all this stuff. So some sort of weird interference happened with the two Nebulas both being there at the same time. I guess since she's like half machine or something, and something weird with the frequencies were the same, so they intermingled. I guess that's really all the explanation we need.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden they realize that
you either buy it or you're watching the wrong movie.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Right.
So basically she gives them all away to Thanos, and Thanos kind of comes to the realization that this is a future Nebula where I succeeded.
Yep.
And so this is happening now. Like we're just going to go get all the, she's going to take me right to the stones right now, and I'm just going to get them all at once and we're good to go. So basically she takes the place of future Nebula to come back and lure Thanos with them.
Yep.
So pretty awesome way to bring Thanos back into the mix, I thought.
For sure.
Plus, this is a Thanos who didn't have any of the stones yet, so he's super hungry.
Yeah.
And super,
He felt like a different Thanos.
Yes, for sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Also didn't have a gauntlet.
He didn't have a gauntlet. He didn't have the gauntlet yet. He had not yet said, "Fine, I'll do it myself."
Yeah.
He was still wearing all the armor.
I was about to say, I don't know if that after credit sequence is technically canon or not. Because he got the gauntlet by destroying the Never to Lear or whatever.
Yeah. Maybe he put on the fake one in Asgard first and then found out it was fake. Fake.
Now I'm just imagining like a phone call like, "Hey Odin, listen, man, I just really need to borrow it. That you got that gauntlet thing. I just really need to borrow that just for like a week, man. Can I swing by?"
Odin's like, "Okay."
Nobody uses the phone anymore.
Oh, that would have been
sent him. He would have sent him an electronic letter. He would have sent him an electronic letter.
Well, either way, he can't give it to him because it's fake. Yeah. He's like, no, I can't let you borrow that.
Except
Sorry.
There was Loki Odin, so he's like, yeah, sure, whatever.
Yeah, whatever.
I gotta play to watch.
You can stay for the play. You can't. You can't stay for the play. Okay, it's a good play.
Oh man. So I guess so let's talk about Hawkeye and Black Widow then, since we got all that set up. So immediately, like, we all knew that this was going to be bad news, right? Like, those two walking into this place, like, how else were they going to get the Soul Stone without one of these two not coming back?
Right.
So that was kind of one of those moments, like, when they get there and they're hiking up the mountain, it's just like, well, this is not going to be a fun scene because we're about to lose one of the main Avengers right here. There's no way around it, I don't think. I did like how they both kind of fought over which one was going to sacrifice themselves.
Yeah.
That was a real fun scene where they seriously flip-flop back and forth enough to make you go, ah, no, whoa, ah, no, like, because you didn't know which one was going over.
Right. Well, they even get to the point they let Clint jump.
Yeah.
And then right as he's about to plummet, she grapple snags him.
Yeah.
And she drops over the side.
Yeah.
So, like, there's a moment where they're both going down.
Yeah. Right. We got a Red Skull appearance again.
I was getting scared because I was like, is the rule you have to sacrifice something you love? Because if that's the rule and the other person just jumps, isn't it them sacrificing something? Like... But they played that one straight. Too.
Yeah, they did it good. Well, yeah, I guess they did kind of say that when it was Thanos, right? It had to be something he loved because that's why Gamora was like, ha ha ha, you're gonna lose because there's nothing you love, but it was her.
Yeah,
right.
But I know they also just kind of say it's like it's a soul for a soul is like the whole thing. Like you trade a soul for the Soul Stone. Like that's just how it works.
Yeah. I mean, if you come there together to get it and one of you dies, it's cool with it.
Yeah.
It's a real chill stone. I mean, it's got a high price, but it's real easy going on the rules. You know what I mean?
I mean, he was Red Skull was Hydra and everything.
It's the chillest of the stones.
The chillest of the stones. It's chill. Okay, somebody did.
I like to think about things, and I like to think about Red Skull like just sitting on that rock waiting. Like, what does he do when there's not somebody there trying to get the Soul Stone? Mm-hmm. Like, does he clean up? I mean, it's a hill, so I assume he's not up there like mopping, so he just sits there, right? Like, remember that one time I almost ruled the earth?
Yeah,
he spends all day trying to fall in love with a rock.
Oh my god!
I love this rock so much.
I love you, rock.
So that he can just sacrifice it.
Yeah.
Oh no!
So he's trying to find ways to get the stone for himself. Oh my god! I like the way we write these characters.
Right.
This is good.
Just like so. Then that one day when that rat scurried by, like, this is more disappointing than that. I love this rat. No, not that either. Oh man.
Oh man.
I should have named him.
Should have named him first.
No, rat. Is he buying it?
Are you a he? I don't even know if you're a he.
You're a he.
Yeah. So Black Widow. I feel like we shouldn't breeze by that too fast. Like, we lose one of our main Avengers here, which is a pretty big deal.
Man.
Especially since they've already kind of set up the rules, and they even talk about it in this, that, like, if you're traded for the Soul Stone, there's no bringing that person back. Like, that person's gone. So,
which also cements a lot of those Gamora theories.
Yeah. So we lost our Black Widow, but it was a great death scene because the way that she basically sacrificed herself to make sure the team got back together, right? And that they were able to bring everybody back. So,
and for Clint's family.
And Clint's
I think
family.
She just I thought it was more for Clint's family than anything else.
Absolutely, that would have a big part of it. Absolutely. But she's just, like, she's been such a great character, and I think the story arc's been awesome.
So it sets up a lot of confusion going forward, though, because she's supposed to be one of the next movies to come out.
Yeah.
Well, it's a prequel. They've already said it was a prequel.
Have they? Yeah. I was going to say, I imagine at this point it would be about her.
It feels kind of weak at this point, though, doesn't it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to be one of my big complaints here when we get to the end.
It's going to be tough moving on past this movie, I feel like, for a little while. Just because this is so big and we got so attached to all these characters, and now we're seeing deaths and stuff. Yeah. That doing stuff like that is going to feel a little weird.
Yep. Just a little after the fact.
Now that I've seen the end of her story, I'm not sure that I need to see the beginning anymore.
Right.
Yeah. That's. I mean, I'm still gonna go see it, but.
Oh yeah.
But you're right.
Yeah, I'll buy my ticket 5 or 6 times.
Yeah, you're definitely right. So everybody comes back successful except Black Widow.
Yep. Well, we got to talk about Thor and Rocket going to Asgard.
I totally forgot. We haven't even talked about the fact that Thor
he's glazed over all of them.
Totally. Like, what?
All right, so we have to go get Thor.
Yeah.
And Thor is
back to the beginning of this movie.
Back to the beginning. So
at
Thor's
New Asgard.
Thor's fat.
Yes.
So
yes. He's really let himself go. His hair's long and scraggly. He's got like silly braids on his beard.
He's crazy drunk.
He's crazy drunk all the time. He's very overweight. He's not very Thor-like.
Hey, how mad is everybody's girlfriends? I want to know in the comment, how mad was your girlfriend when Chris Hemsworth walked on stage?
Like, this is the only reason I was here.
Right.
My wife told me that night that I had a better body than Thor, and I was just like, finally! Yes!
All those not sit-ups you've been doing
Yeah,
have paid off.
I did it! Yeah, that's crazy stuff. Tony called him Lebowski at one point.
Yep. That's awesome.
We get Korg and Meek playing Xbox.
Korg and Meek
playing
yay!
Fortnite.
They were playing Fortnite,
Yeah.
which was amazing, dude. When Korg was upset because that kid was calling him names on the Xbox,
Yeah.
remember? And so Thor got on there and threatened that kid.
Well, he threatened him like as the god of Thor, god of thunder.
It was amazing. Oh my gosh!
Can we let's talk about while we're here. So who is it? It's Hulk and Rocket go to get Thor.
Yeah.
How amazing is it that like Rocket survived the snap, so he's like just chilling on Earth with
Yeah.
the Avengers.
Yeah.
You know,
I love, like when they first got Tony back, and at one point Rocket says something, and Tony just gives this like shudder, and he goes, "Up until right this second, I thought you were a Build-A-Bear."
Well, then he calls him Ratchet at one point.
Yep.
And who was it? I think it was Black Widow. I think it was Black Widow who said something about, I get emails from a raccoon every day. Nothing is going to sound too weird.
Yeah. I liked when they got to New Asgard because we get to see Valkyrie there too.
Yep.
And she's kind of like basically holding down the fort for the place since
Right.
Thor is a drunken mess now. And it's real interesting to see like New Asgard just looks like a fisherman's town.
Yeah.
Just like there was some crazy aliens and stuff walking around, but everybody's living very humble lives now in New Asgard.
There was a couple buildings that looked Asgardian that were like in construction, but you're right. You know what I mean? Other than that,
Yeah.
And, that was one of the big questions that we've had for a year after Infinity War, was it looked like Thanos had killed everyone on that ship, but they make reference to how
They said
half of them
They said
gone.
half of them are gone. Yep.
Which makes me wonder also, so Thanos has been going planet to planet, slaughtering half of the population anyway. So once he snaps, do they lose another half of that?
I would imagine so. I would imagine it's half of all living beings, right? So since they're alive, half of them would have gone.
Yeah.
Oof. Asgard did not
rough.
come out of this very... Yeah.
Well,
So,
I was thinking about that in Infinity War because there's clearly a war going on that Thanos has to win.
Yeah.
So like once he wins, does he take all the soldiers he killed? Does he take those into account? No, he just whoever's left, half of them die too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like that's not I assume those planets.
I mean, theoretically, the gauntlet would be powerful enough, I would imagine, if he willed it to be half of the planets he hasn't already demolished.
Yeah.
But I mean, they never.
But
really
I don't
get into
think.
that.
Well, and I think that's part of the thing too. Like Thanos isn't that good of a guy. In the Black Panther episode when I talked about a villain or heel showing his ass, I think that's kind of some of the ways that we get to see Thanos' ass. Right, is because he has this ideal and he's fighting for this thing, except he's also completely ruthless and he's going to slaughter your military and then execute half of whoever's left.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and I don't think he really has the moral code to be like, well, this planet and this planet and this planet, I was already there, so they can keep everybody.
They suffered enough.
Right.
And yeah, you're totally right.
Just imagine when like Gamora's planet or something like that.
Yeah.
It's already been decimated.
Yeah, like he's wiped whole planets out, right?
And then all of a sudden, I mean, half of them.
Yeah, yeah.
And then all of a sudden, like the other half is like, I guess we'll rebuild, and then half of them just turn to dust. And we're like, oh, come on!
Oh man! Yeah, we were so close.
Right.
We got to get to work getting all these cars out of the street.
Oh man. I like Hulk and Valkyrie's interaction when he shows up because he's all talking smart and she's like, I think I liked you better the other way.
Both of the other ways.
Yeah, both of the other ways. That's what she says. I think I liked you better both of the other ways. I thought that was pretty fun.
Yeah.
So Thor and Rocket had to go to Asgard. They went back to Thor: The Dark World movie, basically, to get the Aether because it was
which still does not justify that movie's experience.
So the Aether was inside of Jane at this point,
right?
And not chubby drunk Thor was really also not really looking forward to seeing Jane again. Like he was super. He's just in a bad place, man.
Yeah, he didn't want to do that. He was totally being a wuss.
Yeah,
he started crying, and Rocket had to slap him.
Yeah.
So he also goes. So they go to pull the ether. Rocket's got a little thing they got to stab Jane with and pull the ether out.
Yeah.
Which I kind of feel like the Asgardians didn't have that during that movie. They were like we can't pull it out of her. But now they've just got a little MacGuffin that you can stab them with. Not a complaint or even a weak spot. Just something I felt should be noted.
Yeah. Good point.
Well, they're clearly just a bunch of fishermen.
Well, see, I counted against Dark World. Like if they could figure it out, if Rocket could figure it out, 10 years later, why couldn't Dark World figure it out? Because that movie sucks. So Thor ends up running away, and he goes and he runs into Freya. Mm-hmm. Moments before she's about to go get murdered herself.
Yeah.
Which I thought was a cool scene. I thought it was real cool that she realized instantly. She took one look at him and knew what was going on.
Yeah.
She was like, "You're not from this time, are you?"
Yeah. Well, this was neat too, because much in the way that Tony got his closure with his dad, Thor got some closure with his mom, and this was pretty cool. This was a pretty cool scene.
Yep.
Also, at the end, he just straight stole that Thor's Mjolnir, which was kind of awesome. Like, that definitely got big cheers when he pulled Mjolnir in. The crowd got real happy about that. I did, too. I thought that was awesome.
It was awesome.
And he was happy because he was still worthy.
Yeah.
Well, so then Rocket comes running back up, having gotten the ether. So let's not gloss over the fact that there's a scene we didn't get to see where a little raccoon monster jumps out and attacks and stabs Jane. Right?
Yeah.
Like, what is she thinking? Right?
Well, we did get to see her, like there was a scene where she got up off the bed and kind of walked off screen, and then we heard her scream. So that definitely happened exactly like that. We just didn't get to see it.
And I was reading about that a little bit earlier today too, because when that first happened, I was like, oh, we're gonna get more Natalie Portman scenes than we never actually did. But I guess she did a little bit of voiceover for something she said in the background, but didn't actually come in to shoot.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
But I mean, she came in and helped it out a little bit at least.
Yeah, totally.
Just neat how many people they brought back in for a few scenes in this movie.
Right.
Rene Russo gets this big one we're talking about, which was amazing.
Yeah.
I saw something that said Rene Russo had more lines in this movie than she did in Thor and the Dark World combined.
I believe that.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh wow, that's crazy. Yeah, so that was a cool scene. And they got the Aether, and Thor brought Mjolnir back. Yep. So all of them come back, and they all basically succeeded, except we lost Black Widow in the process.
Yep.
But also, Nebula got switched out with past Nebula, and she's bringing Thanos to them. So they succeeded, but obviously things are not going to go their way. Iron Man built his own gauntlet out of Stark tech at this point to house the stones.
Yep.
And they
expandable gauntlet.
Yeah. I mean, his armor kind of does that anyway, right? It always kind of form fits around.
Well, and it's all nanotech now.
And it is all nanotech now, which kind of is important for later too. And I think they kind of have the discussion there, but they decide that Hulk's probably got to be the one. Hulk says that he should be the one that does it.
Well,
Thor wants to real bad.
Thor wants to do it.
He's the strongest Avenger.
Oh, yeah. They brought that back again. But Hulk ultimately gets...
Strongest Avenger.
Point Break. Welcome, Thor.
Welcome, strongest Avenger. What?
What? Yeah. So, and here's the first time. So, for the very first time, well, not for the first time. So, we get that callback, a real subtle callback, to the first Avengers when Eric Selvig tells Nick Fury that the Tesseract is throwing off small amounts of gamma radiation, nothing harmful. And here when they're talking about it, Hulk says that's how he talks everybody into it. Is he's like, it's like I was built for this. This thing is mostly gamma radiation. meh.
Yeah,
right? Like
yeah,
meh.
they just randomly threw the
Is
gamma
it?
thing in
Yeah.
there. I know.
Okay,
I felt the
guys.
same way when he said that. It's
Okay,
kinda like,
guys.
oh, gamma stuff. Okay, that's fine.
Can't he just do it because he's the Hulk?
Yeah. But he does it.
Yeah.
Like he puts it on. Like this is another part too where Tony's just like, make sure you just bring them all back here and don't undo what Thanos did. Like Tony like said that again. Like, because even like when he first puts it on, he's kind of struggling to even hold on to the power of the stones and everything. So that was really cool. And he just barely gets his hand up and he does the snap. And then
it fries him.
It fries him up the same way we saw Thanos all fried up. Like his arm is all fried. It's kind of coming up his neck. He looks all nasty. And everybody's kind of got that moment where they're all standing around like, did it work? Did anything happen? And then that's when Hawkeye's phone starts ringing and his wife is calling him.
And Scott Mann sees the birds chirping.
Yeah. So I guess birds came back to life too.
Yeah.
Because I guess it would be half of our life, wouldn't it?
Right.
So things came back. It seems like it worked fine, but this is where Thanos just shows up and bombs the crap out of that scene was insane.
Crushing, dude. Like
Hawkeye's reaching for the phone to answer it.
Yep.
And then those missiles come shooting down and just blow that place up.
So Nebula, the Nebula that came back with him, who is the evil Nebula, uses which is one of those things I'm just gonna allow, but you know, like there were no Pym particles on the on Thanos' ship. How did he come back? Never mind. But she brings Thanos' whole ship through. Yeah. Right? And man, I was certain when that ship started firing on the Avengers compound, I was certain we just watched all of them die.
Man, it looked like it, right?
Yeah.
Oh my god, that was nuts.
Well, and I thought that was the twist they were going to pull for us.
Yeah.
Because it was right after. So all the other heroes were back alive now, right? So we know they brought everybody back. So like I was just when he started firing, I was just like, well, that's it. That whole
the main crew is dead.
Yeah, that whole this whole movie's dead now.
Yeah.
Like, man, that's it.
Man, that was nuts.
But they're not.
They're not. No, they're just scattered in various places. Like we get that scene because like Hulk and Ant-Man and Hawkeye all fell like
through the bottom
down to like a sewer kind of area down below the Chitauri come running in again. So we get the Chitauri again, which is amazing.
Well, wasn't that? No, those are those Thanos.
Yeah, it was those dogs.
Oh, that's right. It was those dog things.
Yeah,
it was the dog things.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Mm-hmm. So it was those same space dogs we saw in Infinity War.
Right.
But they come running through again, and Hawkeye's fighting them all off, and Hulk's basically trying to save everybody.
Hawkeye has the gauntlet.
That's right. The gauntlet fell down.
The gauntlet's fallen off.
That's right.
Hulk's down there holding up some of the
buildings. So it's not crushing Ant-Man, right?
So it's not crushing
War Machine
and Rocket.
Oh,
War
that's
Machine
right.
and Rocket.
War Machine and Rocket. That's right. That's right.
Because Ant-Man's trying to get to him.
Yeah. Ant-Man's trying to get to him. Then everybody else just kind of is outside, right, at this point, because we get Thanos shows up.
Well, yeah. So this is the moment.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna talk because I had a huge revelation that I didn't realize until this moment.
I don't think that was a revelation then.
No, shush.
You just now had it, bro.
So Thanos shows up with Nebula and Gamora.
Mm-hmm. Yep. He did.
Yeah.
Yep.
And he sends them go get my gauntlet.
Yeah.
Bring me the stones. Bring me the stones. What are you gonna do? Wait. And so he just sits down with his helicopter blade.
Yeah.
That he wields as like a sword, right?
Yeah.
And he just sits down and waits. And that's where we see Iron Man, Thor, and Captain America pull themselves out of the rubble.
Yeah.
And see Thanos waiting for them.
Yeah.
And I did not realize that really Infinity War, the last two stories have been Infinity War and Endgame were these guys' stories. These three, right? And I did not when they all came out and I was kind of like, here we go. I was like, oh, here we've been going, huh?
Yeah.
It was so, even though they're just the guys and they were kind of leading the team, but they were all the ones with the different arcs and trying to figure, you know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
Trying to figure the stuff out. And I didn't realize that until this moment.
Yeah. And then
I was so juiced, man.
As
they came out, it felt so. This is where we finish.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I was like, oh man.
And there's a lot of this fight to go through that we'll talk about in a little bit more detail. But I will say overall, I feel like
all of the fighting that Thanos does through the next like half an hour of this movie, to me, adds a lot of credence to your theory that because we talked about how this is kind of a different Thanos here in Endgame. Like, he is much harder, much more ruthless, much more of that bad guy, and your theory of by the time Infinity Gauntlet comes around, like, he's going to do what he's going to do, but he's fine with being stopped also. I think the way this fight goes down lends a lot of credibility to that, because he came off as so much stronger here without the gauntlet and all the stones.
Yeah, he didn't even have any stones here
with it, you know? Yeah. And I don't think that's bad storytelling. I feel like that is. I mean, this is the ruthless conqueror Thanos going after that goal, as opposed to the one who's already just about accomplished it and is not sure how he feels about that.
Yep.
Yeah.
And has paid the price with all his friends. You know what I mean? For sure. Because right now he's just down there and you know, the Maw and Corvus Blade and everybody else, they're all
back.
They're up on the ship watching. I don't know what they were doing at this point, you know? But yeah, man, it's I don't even know what to say because it's go time.
Yeah, it's go time. So this fight is pretty epic right here because
good.
Yeah. I mean, gosh, man, this is where things are just really ramping up, right? Like this was just nonstop feels through every bit of this stuff. Just watching this fight happen. What moment do you want to talk about here in this? Because there's so much good stuff here, but we're about to break into like the real crazy stuff.
Right. So we have to talk about. I mean, I guess we might as well. We got to talk.
I don't remember the order of half the stuff.
Yeah, right, exactly.
I mean, it starts off with pretty much just a straight out fight for a while.
Yeah, it's just a straight fight. Well, yeah, I don't even know. Thor fighting them, you know.
Thor's got Mjolnir and Stormbreaker.
Thor's got Mjolnir and Stormbreaker.
Right.
Tony Stark's in his Iron Man suit, you know, seemingly at full power. You know, there's the moment I thought it was real cool where, like, Stark opened up. I like the way Stark's armor now just does whatever he wants it to, you know, like the nanotech. Yeah. Like he's got the moment where he's like, you know, hit me, you know, and Thor hits him with a lightning bolt and he like supercharges him and blasts
Thanos. I love it was kind of a callback to the first Avengers.
For sure.
Yeah, totally.
Man, I don't know. I mean, like,
there's not a lot of setup of anything until we get to a lot of the bigger stuff, because this is basically, and I know the scenes are going back and forth, and that's why I'm trying to remember if I'm missing anything big.
I'm mainly trying to remember anything.
Well, is it during all this too that past Nebula convinces Gamora like that they need to stop this kind of a thing?
Well, she had already done that.
She'd already kind of done that,
right? That was on the when they came back.
Yeah,
you know, like when they
past Nebula catches up with Barton and the Gauntlet.
Right.
And he's getting ready to take it to Thanos. And this is about the time that Tony and Steve and Thor all go on the attack right there. Ant-Man and Hulk and all the rest of those guys are still trapped different places.
Yep.
And we get that scene where, you know, old Nebula catches up with Hawkeye, and then new Nebula and old Gamora show up. Yeah. And they both give Nebula the same talk. Like, we know you hate him. We know you don't want to do this. Look what you become.
Yep.
You know, you can just stop it right here. And she has that moment where she's like, nope, I'm going to impress Dad. And so they have to kill her.
And so Nebula kills her.
Nebula kills Nebula. Yeah. Which has got to be pretty crazy to like, I just killed myself. That's pretty nuts.
In the meantime, Thanos is just owning those three.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, they're putting up a fight. They each get their moments at the beginning where they're putting up their fight, but that stuff breaks down after a while. And I mean, this is where we get.
I've
been trying to think of moments that happened before this.
Yeah, this is definitely one of the biggest moments.
Thanos waylays Thor, just crushes him, and is going in for the kill blow, and they pan over, and you see Mjolnir start to rattle, and then picks up and moves. And I think it smacks
Thanos.
It smashes Thanos, so he doesn't get that kill move on Thor, and then you
Right.
see it bounce off right into Steve's hands.
Yeah.
And Steve's standing there with a shield in one hand and Mjolnir in the other, and Thor just screams, "I knew it!"
Yeah.
All excited.
And our theater popped to their
Dude, the
feet,
theater
man.
went
It
nuts,
was
man.
amazing,
Yeah.
dude. I was cheering so hard at this moment. This
Yeah.
is like one of the coolest moments that we have all been waiting
in
to see.
cinema history.
Dude,
Yeah,
oh my
man.
gosh,
You
dude!
know?
Captain America wielding Mjolnir,
And then he wrecked shop on
Dude,
Thanos.
dude,
Yeah.
just whoops Thanos with it.
Like
Oh
he
my
was just
god!
in tune with that hammer.
Yeah.
Oh, it was so amazing.
So I'm gonna talk about this real quick because I watched a video where somebody said that this moment, not that it wasn't a great moment, but that it lost some of its oomph because we've already seen Vision lift the hammer, and not only do I disagree, but now I'm gonna say Vision wasn't worthy. I'm gonna say the elevator hypothesis was right. Because Vision picked the hammer up and he smacked Ultron with it one time. But the saying is, whoever's worthy will have the power of Thor.
Yeah.
Vision didn't use no lightning. Vision didn't get stronger when he smacked it. What's his name? Captain America was like calling down lightning and wrecking Thanos. Captain America was worthy. He wielded the power of Thor.
Yeah.
I saw something today that I was saying that we talked about during our Ultron episode. That, and I think you guys already had that take, and it was new to me. That in that scene in Ultron, when Steve goes to pick up the hammer, it nudges just a little bit. And I took that originally as, he can kind of move it because he's a good guy, but but he can't lift it. And then on the repeat viewings just here recently, I decided that I think he could have just picked that darn thing up and knew it, and
and
didn't wanted to save face for Thor, so just nudged it and let it go, And we talked about that episode. I thought you had already come to that.
We definitely
yourself.
talked about that.
Yeah,
but I just remember because Thor even gave him that real worried look,
exactly.
Which was great for this payoff
And
here.
I think
he's
that's
just
why,
I knew
even
it.
with Thor saying "I knew it," I think that because I was reading something today that was saying that Captain America used to be able to move it a little bit, but apparently over the last few years, he's done enough to become worthy. Now he can actually wield it, and I don't think that's the case.
Yeah.
And I think the Thor line right there is as much proof as you're going to get for it. Like I said, I mean he's been worthy the entire time.
So
he just.
So in the comics, there is also like there's an element. It's not just worth. There's like an element of intent.
Yeah.
And I think in the comics, like Captain America is worthy sometimes. Like it's almost situational, and that's kind of what I was thinking. Like he didn't really want to pick up. You know what I mean? Like he didn't want to pick it up. He didn't want to be worthy. He didn't really care about it at that point. He had to, you know what I mean? Like he needed to pick it up here, and so he did. That's how I took it anyway.
Well, it was an amazing moment.
Yeah.
And he wails on Thanos for a while, like you said, calls down lightning and zaps him and everything. But even with
the back and forth between the shield strikes and the Mjolnir strikes, the way he was just wielding both.
Yeah.
It's so much fun to watch.
Yep.
But even that wasn't enough to stop Thanos, because Thanos still ends up overpowering him here. And it was at this point that we saw Thanos break the shield, right?
Yeah.
Broke the shield. Without any Infinity Stones, Thanos was able to break the vibranium shield, which is
with his big helicopter blade.
Big moment there too.
Well, he came in with it the one time and and it bit into the shield.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
And then he just kept going and shattered the shield. I was like, man, I don't know where I'm at right now. We just lost.
And then we get the other.
This is.
I don't know if this moment was bigger for me than the Mjolnir moment.
It's tough, but
there.
this is like
and
the
they
moment,
were within
man.
5 minutes of each other.
This moment, I'll
you
tell
get
you what.
that, all hope is lost. All three of them are down. Steve's shield is cracked to nothing. He starts to pick himself back up. Here's what I thought. I thought this is where we were going to get the legit "I can do this all day" line.
Yeah, man, I was waiting for it.
He looked like he was getting ready for it, man.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
And I was almost bummed that they had made the joke earlier. Because I was like, that's going to take away from this one a little bit. But I don't care. I just want to hear it. Here we go. And he didn't have a chance to say anything. Instead, his comlink just comes on, and you hear Sam.
Well, first, we get Thanos' army.
Oh, yeah.
This is where we get the Chitauri come back.
Oh, yeah, the Chitauri.
Because Steve's getting to his feet, and this is where Thanos goes, I've destroyed 1,000 worlds, and it's never been personal. my mission, whatever, it's not personal, but I just want you to know what I'm about to do to this little rock, I am gonna enjoy.
Well, he this is where he kind of,
and that's where his forces.
Didn't
arrive.
he come to the realization that originally I was gonna end half of all life, but what I realized is that gave the rest of the world, the rest of the people that were existing, like a purpose to.
He did that before when he squared off with the three of them at the beginning.
So he's decided at this point that he's going to end all life and then rebuild from scratch. Yeah. Like that's his new goal now because he doesn't want this to happen again.
Right. And again, you've gone from a Thanos at the beginning of the movie who's accomplished his goal and is wary of being tempted by the power of the gauntlet to this even more maniacal Thanos right now, who is just like, fine, I'll just do whatever I need to do then.
Yeah.
Like, I will just kill everyone
and
go forward. But we get that comm link come on, and you just hear Sam come over, and he's like, hey, Cap. And Steve's like, Sam? And he just goes, on your left.
Oh, my God, man. That moment, dude. The whole... oh, my God. This was another... Yep. Seeing this movie with a packed theater was one of the coolest experiences I've ever had. Just because the way we all reacted to that moment and then everything that was about to happen here was just like...
That little fire ring opens behind...
Everybody started cheering for that immediately. Yeah. Oh, man. The little Doctor Strange ring opens up.
Well, hey, can we just... You know how I like to imagine things? I just really like that there had to be a moment there where, like, Doctor Strange is zipping all over the galaxy, pulling everybody, coordinating everybody to bring him there. And Sam goes, hey, can you make sure mine opens up on his left?
Yeah.
It's a thing, man. It's a
thing. Does Sam come out? Sam doesn't come out first, does he?
No, Black Panther and Siri.
Oh, that's right.
Dude, that music, the Black Panther music starts playing, dude. And like that whole army comes marching through and you're just like, oh my
Wakanda
God.
Comes in.
Yes.
And then
Wakanda forever.
Yeah, he comes flying over them.
Tribes and everything.
Dude.
Yeah, and then Sam comes out.
And then Sam comes flying out and then we see the Guardians jump out and then Spider-Man comes web swinging out. Yep. Oh my God, dude.
Doctor Strange comes in.
Yep. All the wizards.
All the wizards.
All the wizards
show up.
Oh my God.
Because there's that moment there because Doctor Strange is there with Wong, and he's like, "Is this all of them?" And Wong's like, "You want more than this?"
But then isn't that when like Ant-Man's like, "Hang on, I'm coming. I got Hulk and whoever," and all of a sudden like Giant Man comes growing out of the building and like tosses the rest of them down into the battle, and now you've just got like every freaking Marvel hero we've seen from every movie, right there.
Yeah,
dude. This moment,
it's bananas.
Yeah. Even talking about it, I'm like,
the Guardians,
Pepper.
Oh yeah, Pepper comes
up.
flying in a suit. So cool. Wasp is there.
Both wasps.
Both wasps? Were there?
No, I don't think.
I don't remember seeing the one wasp. I don't remember.
Okay.
Did we see her later?
I don't remember seeing her.
Oh, she's in the funeral scene
later. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Spoiler.
Man, whatever. Man, this moment was just like, God, I feel like I've been waiting my whole life to see something like that.
Right?
Because you have.
No, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
Well, like I remember reading the comic books where that happened. And I had copies of the original Secret Wars, and like every one of those had like a big splash page where it was like, man, everybody is in this.
Yeah,
everybody's in this picture. This is phenomenal. I read. I was real big on Image Comics.
Yeah,
particularly like the Wildstorm stuff. And they did a couple big crossover events that were like Wildstorm Rising and stuff, where you'd get those big splash pages with like, all the Wildcats and the Youngbloods and all those things.
Right.
And like, man, like I would get those feelings then. You know what I mean? So, like, it took me right back to that kind of stuff.
It was amazing.
Yeah, I was just like, this is, man.
Dude, this is like every emotion was
been waiting my whole life for this. Just
for
like
real,
you said.
Dude. Like, I had tears streaming down my face. My heart felt like it was going to burst out of my chest. I was just, man, this moment is what it's been building to. And then we get Cap, who finally says for the first time, Avengers Assemble. And I was just like, I thought I was dead, dude. I was just like, oh my God, this is just... Oh, what an amazing moment. God dang.
I have read, there is no way there's ever been a movie that has made this many grown men come straight to tears.
Dude.
Right.
I have, like everyone I've talked to
even
people I'm not that necessarily that close to, you know, are like, man, I just started crying at one point, and, you know, like I couldn't help it. I'm like, I know.
We all did. We all did.
I
didn't cry.
I read a story earlier today about a woman who had to get medical attention because she was hyperventilating so hard from the end of this movie.
Goodness gracious.
I also read a story today about a guy in Hong Kong who got whooped because he spoiled it.
I saw that too. Some dude came out of the theater and thought he'd be funny and spoil the movie, and then got beat up by everybody outside.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yep. Karma. Me and Jam are running around the theater yelling, "Snape killed Dumbledore."
Oh, but yeah, I mean that was, I mean, like 3 moments in a 5-minute span, all of which were heartbreaking moments. You know, like just I was just melted by that.
Dude, it was.
I didn't have enough energy.
Because then you just watch all these guys just do their thing and fight, and it's just amazing. They do the gauntlet keep away thing, which is pretty cool, where they just keep passing
well,
it.
And you get Tony reunited with Peter.
Oh my gosh, he got his hug, dude.
Yeah.
Peter got his hug.
Yeah.
That was a great moment too.
Like I mean, Robert Downey Jr. is well renowned for how personable and fun he is in these movies.
Yeah.
He's a pretty good actor.
Yeah.
You know, like just straight up acting.
Yep.
Because like the look on his face when Peter comes swinging by and he sees him.
Dude, he was so.
You know, like,
that's something we
He
kind of
swung
glossed.
up and he started trying to explain it.
Yeah.
And he was like,
Yeah.
Mr. Stark, I disappeared. And then I wasn't disappeared. And then I was like,
He's
good
like, I
job,
must have
guys.
just only been knocked out for a little bit, because then I just came to, and I was just laying there, and then Doctor Strange said we had to go. Yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah,
man.
and then somewhere in here too, Tony and Strange are discussing something because Tony asked Strange, like, well, you saw a bunch of them. Is this the one? And Strange is like, I can't tell you what's going to happen because then it won't happen.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Man, this stuff.
Which was a great moment.
It's
We get Peter has the gauntlet and is trying to get away, and he gets brought down at one point and is about to lose it, and then we get the cavalry show up, and the cavalry is like, this is the, because was Captain Marvel at?
she had not shown up yet.
No.
This was
so.
it was right
But
after this though.
Was
This
like
was-
every other female.
It was every badass chick from the MCU all showed
no,
up in this
that's
one
after
scene.
this. Somebody else saves
No,
Peter, don't
no,
they?
it was
No,
them.
it was them.
Because Peter introduces himself to Pepper here. Remember, he's like, "Hi, I'm Peter Parker," and she's like, "Hi, Peter Parker. I need this," or whatever it was. But that's when they all like stepped in front of him to save him, because it was Peter there, and then like they all came in.
I didn't think so.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No, because they cleared the way when she had the thing. So maybe she was already there by then. Maybe you guys are putting this too early, because it was absolutely because Captain Marvel picks up the thing, because it was a callback to the she's not alone moment from Infinity War, when it was just all the chicks.
Okay, well, it all happens at the same time, I think. I think it's Captain Marvel, not Pepper, he introduces himself to.
Oh, that's right. It was.
Yeah.
It was Captain Marvel.
She-
You're right.
well,
so
so
it
then
was all
She
of this
flies
then.
down to save him or whatever.
Well, so then we got to talk about
That was great,
when Thanos
too,
calls
though.
down the fire.
Yeah, because his ships start blasting down again, and then all of a sudden they stop and they point up and they start shooting upwards, and everybody's just real confused because they're like, what are they shooting at?
I was not confused.
Well, we knew. As soon as they started doing it, you're just like, oh well, here we go. Sorry, Thanos. Captain Marvel comes flying down and then just does her thing and flies straight through that ship and takes it down like it's nothing.
well, so I think that moment is significant too. I think that means we're probably going to get, or we at least have the potential to get, a Captain Marvel movie where she's already fighting Thanos, because they don't like. Theoretically, they shouldn't know who she is to need to stop it. They would have to know like somebody's in that ship going, Captain Marvel's coming. Captain Marvel's coming for them to stop and start shooting at her. You know what I mean?
You might be right.
Like she's got to be known throughout the universe. Though.
Yeah, totally. I like too, because we've kind of,
but not she didn't. Well, I guess she existed then, but like, you know,
she had been flying around in space for 20 years at this point.
Yeah, we should totally.
I mean, not 20 years. She'd been
95 to 2015 ish.
Yep. It's totally been over 20 years at this point.
All right, fine.
Holy
Never
cow,
mind.
that's crazy.
Never mind.
We should totally mention that too, because she wasn't there for most of this movie.
Which still helps my point, right?
Well, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay,
No,
so-
because they would know who she is.
but she's probably tangoed with Thanos before.
Oh, yeah, that's quite possible.
Yes.
But you were saying that's not the only explanation, I guess.
Okay. Anyway, I feel like we should mention real quick how she wasn't really here for this whole movie.
Yeah.
And like we just got her movie right before this, so I think a lot of people were expecting her to have a bigger role. But I liked the way they explained that early on, how she was basically like, look, there's like all these other planets out there and they only have me. At least this planet has you guys.
Yeah.
Right.
Like that was how they explained, like, because she's trying to clean up the mess that Thanos has made everywhere else in the galaxy except Earth, because Earth has the Avengers.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a perfectly fine explanation for why she was
yeah.
doing her thing.
And she's got that awesome haircut.
Yeah, she totally got the short haircut,
Yeah.
which is
Yep.
another thing right out of the books. That was cool. I wish we would have got to see her with the helmet thing on though when she was fighting in the end scene, because I like that. I like
I
that.
think the helmet thing looks dumb.
I like it with the mohawk. I think it looks cool.
I think it looks dumb.
I think it looks cool. But anyway, she showed up and she was awesome. And then we got that awesome scene with all the awesome
Yeah.
women, which was so cool.
I'm all about the girl power stuff. I don't think that's in question. At least I would hope not. Narratively, I felt like that got laid on a little thick. Like I got the point of that scene when the first like 4 or 5 showed up, and I thought it was perfect. And then like 9 more showed up, and I was like, why is every girl but no guy available to just walk over here and do this defense? Like there's a point where it doesn't make any sense anymore. Which I guess they're just going for that moment, so that's fine. But I thought they had that. I thought they had that moment with like 4 of them, you know.
I mean, whatever.
Well, but this is not the movie where we just go for what's the bare minimum to get this point across. This is the movie where we go, hey, we want this moment. Let's just go all out on this moment.
Yeah.
You know, like they could have just had Thanos, you know, smash Cap's shield and have it break, but instead he hammered it 700 times. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To an extent. Felt forced to me, which made it feel like I was super pumped at the beginning, and then by the time, you know, that panning shot was finished 30 seconds later and there was 27 of them standing there, and I was just like, that's a lot. And I will say this too, I was watching it with my 7-year-old daughter. Had she been excited about it, I wouldn't have given it a second thought, but she didn't seem to care either.
Really?
You know, yeah.
Dude,
I liked
Valkyrie was on a Pegasus, man.
Yeah.
She did like
was
that.
So cool.
She got super excited when she saw the horse.
Yeah,
with
man.
Wings. She's
That
like,
was-
that's a Pegasus. I'm like, yes, it is. I'm glad you get the point of this movie.
I thought it was great. But this is where Captain Marvel has her big old fight with Thanos,
Yeah.
right? And I think like everybody was kind of, I don't know if everybody, but we definitely had a feeling that she was going to be a big part of the finish to this whole thing, right? Which is why they set her up so big for this. And we get to see her square off with Thanos, and she definitely goes toe-to-toe with him. In fact, there's even that moment where, like, she just doesn't move when he, like, tries to push her, and, like, she doesn't move anywhere, and you're just kind of like, oh, yeah, you're done. But he overpowers her, too.
No, he doesn't.
Right?
Well,
Doesn't
no,
he?
he had to use the Power Stone. Remember, because she was doing the
That's
Captain.
right.
She was doing the Captain America thing, holding his hand open.
Yeah.
And he couldn't move.
because he had the gauntlet
And-
by then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so he popped the power gem out, punched her with the power gem.
Yeah, that's right. That's
And-
right. He used
and
an
the-
Infinity Stone to
yeah.
overpower. I forgot because he this whole time he had been trying to make his way closer and closer to that gauntlet,
Right.
and he finally got to that point where he kept almost picking it up, and they kept getting it. That was
Well,
an
that was
intense-
when he called down the thunder, right?
Yeah, that was intense, man. Because we were just going, oh no, because he just kept getting so close to that gauntlet. But yeah, he was holding it at that point, but he wasn't wearing it, right?
He had it on.
Yeah, he had it on.
He
had
got
it
it
on.
on, and that's when she came in, thrashed him.
To stop him from
They had their
snapping.
quick
Forgot
little-
too. We glazed over how he got to that point of calling down the thunder. I forgot all about that because Scarlet Witch showed up
Oh,
and wrecked his day.
Yeah.
Man,
You know?
yeah.
And
yeah.
she was the one who had him like trapped in stasis and was like crushing him or something.
Yeah.
And he
Yeah.
freaked out and had the thunder call down, and that's how he got her off finally.
Right.
It took an
Yeah.
armada to get
So
her
we got
off
we
of
got
him.
a little bit more of a taste of how strong
Yeah.
Scarlet Witch is here,
Yeah.
which it's going to be interesting to see if they really dive into that a little bit more in the future. I don't know where these
Yeah.
characters are
No,
all
no
going,
idea, no idea.
but yeah,
Just-
we got they've
But here he's got the gauntlet. It's form fitted itself to his hand.
Yeah.
And everybody's trying to keep it open, keep him from snapping. And that's
Right.
like you said, Captain
Yep.
Marvel was just holding his hand open, and he popped that one out, blasted her across the landscape. And isn't this where Stark looks at?
at Doctor Strange.
Yeah, because this is it. 'Cause
This
he's
is
putting
it.
yeah.
He's putting that.
He's cleared the field. He's
Yep.
putting the gym back in.
He gives him the old curly from City Slickers.
Oh man.
Just holds up the one finger.
John. Good job. Good job.
One thing.
So,
but that's that's
Tony's-
Tony's message.
Yep.
This is the one.
this is the one.
Yep.
Tony's big hero moment.
Yep.
He dives over,
Dives onto the glove.
dives
tries to
onto
grab
the
it
glove,
off.
tries to grab it. Yeah, Thanos.
knocks him back.
Yep,
And
and snaps.
I am inevitable.
Inevitable.
Snap.
Snaps. Nothing happens.
Nothing.
You guys both snapped. That was
That was-
weak. Even if you had an Infinity Gauntlet, it wouldn't recognize that snap.
No,
Like, no.
I can't snap very loud.
Yeah, it's not my thing. I'm good at some things. It's not one of them.
So he's,
But nothing happens. He looks down at the gauntlet, sees all the gems are gone. And
Yeah.
then we get Tony's big hero moment because they pan back over to him and he's wearing them all in his Iron Man suit.
well, it's like because it's the nanotech. So like
Yeah.
you see the gems like kind of form and go up onto his hand. So
Yeah.
that's how I got him
Yeah.
off because the gauntlet Thanos is wearing is also nanotech. So
Yeah.
he was basically able to just transfer him right over to his suit
Yep.
when he touched it. Yeah, and you get that big moment where he just says, "I am Iron Man."
Yep.
And that's another great callback right there
Yeah.
to where this all started.
Yep.
Snaps, and then you just see all of Thanos' forces get Thanosed. They all start turning to dust. They all start dusting. And I love this, too, because you see Thanos just kind of realize it's over, right?
Man.
He just kind of sits down.
He
and-
looks over, and he sees it all happening, and he kind of somberly walks over, and he sits down the same way we saw him sit down after he won.
Yep.
And just kind of sat there and waited for it. And then you just saw him dust away. And it was just like this moment where like you felt like that sigh of relief.
Yeah,
and just
man.
kind of like, oh my God, it's over.
Yeah.
They did it. They won. Man, that was awesome. So good.
It's so good. Doesn't say any. He doesn't have a quippy comeback. He
Nope.
doesn't say anything. He doesn't. I will be back one day. Nothing. Nothing like that, man. And that man is gonna set Thanos aside, like on a different plane from every other villain ever. You know what I mean? Like that seals it in,
Yeah.
Never mind, like Infinity War was great and he won, but like that moment, I feel like that puts him on another level. Like there's Thanos and like Heath Ledger's Joker, and then everybody else.
Man. So obviously at this point we know that Tony's not in good shape because he just used the stones, and we've seen how that's affected Thanos, and we saw how that affected Hulk, and Iron Man is not superhuman at all. So he is wrecked at this point. He is in bad shape. You can tell he's already dying at this point. So we get that kind of moment where like is it Peter? Peter's real upset here, right? Isn't it Peter the one talking to him at first?
Peter shows up first.
Yeah, Peter shows
Pepper
up
does.
first, and then Pepper comes over. And this is just a great scene, too, because Pepper is just kind of like she's obviously sad and everything, but she's basically just like, you did it.
You can rest
You did
now.
it. You can rest now. You did what you needed to do. And oh, man. And now, suddenly, like you even brought this up, suddenly, like we super care about Iron Man again, right?
That's you knew at some point they were gonna have to kill off Robert Downey Jr. because at some point they were
because
gonna
Robert Downey Jr. is going to go live on that little island that Disney bought him. I think it's called Cuba. and just retire for the rest of his days.
The big guys are getting out of this story,
Right.
And there's not much they can do with Tony but kill him. And I've been on Cap's side the entire time, and just generally I like Tony. Tony's fun to watch. Tony's a huge jerk, and I wouldn't mind seeing him get his comeuppance at some point either.
Yep.
And so I've been not to say I hate Iron Man and I want him to die, but I know it's coming, and I've been anticipating it gleefully. Like, this is going to be cool when this happens. Here we go. And for 5 years, I have felt this way. And right at the very moment where the movies finally make me want him to live again, they kill him.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, he's got a kid now.
Yeah.
He's
Like, I got to the end of this
which
movie,
kind of
and I'm
makes
like-
it even worse, you
I was
know?
like, no,
and-
Tony, you're going to... Oh, man. Dang it.
Yeah, yeah. We get the Tony Stark funeral scene, which was
Well, before we breeze onto that, I just want to point out too how they didn't give Tony his last quip.
Yeah.
They didn't give Tony his last. You know what I mean? He didn't get his. He wasn't Tony. Like when he said "I am Iron." Like that was the last bit that was Tony. He
Yep.
wasn't Tony anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think that was very powerful till that moment that he was just like done. You know what I mean? He was just like a husk at that point, comatose almost or whatever.
Right,
you know what I mean? Just kind of wasting away right before everybody's eyes. Like, man.
I liked the way that all played into the Doctor Strange plan too, because I mean, up until this moment, even Strange doesn't necessarily know which one we're in because he's seen so many. And somebody was asking me about like, well, if Doctor Strange knew this was going to happen, blah blah blah, whatever. And I was like, well, that's the thing. Like, he didn't, when he gave the stone up, he didn't know he was saving the world necessarily. What he knew was the only way that they would win was by Tony sacrificing himself.
Yep.
Right.
So he didn't know that they would win because he kept Tony alive, but he knew if he let Tony die, they wouldn't win.
Yeah.
So it's still a crapshoot at that point up until the very end.
Well, yeah. Well, and there's the idea behind multiple destinies or whatever. Like multiple is that. So there's 1,400 and however many he looked at, right?
14 million.
14 million. Yeah, that's what I meant. 14 million and however many he looked at. A lot of those are very small differences.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so, like up until that moment, up until that moment, there's thousands of them that go just the way he's looking at them.
Yep.
So, yeah, he had no idea, until they got to that moment, and it's like,
that was so cool.
And then we're at the funeral.
So then we're at the funeral. Obviously, sad stuff. We get the call back with Tony Stark's heart, the first arc reactor.
Yep.
She kind of put on the little memorial thing that they floated out into the water, and we basically get this big shot of everybody who's attended his funeral.
They're all kind of grouped off.
Yeah.
which is everybody.
Yeah, basically everybody.
And this is where you definitely see Michelle Pfeiffer and Hank Pym.
I was going to say there's some good callbacks to lots of characters throughout the movies. Like the one that confused all of us at the time was the teenage boy. We were like, who is that? But
just standing by himself.
But it was the kid from Iron Man 3, which we eventually found out because he's a teenager now.
Yeah.
So he was there. Captain Marvel was hanging out on the porch. Nick Fury walked up beside her, which was kind of neat. So we got to see everybody there. And then we got that scene with Happy and his daughter, which was pretty heart-wrenching, too.
I was telling you guys that because, she says something about, he asks her if she's hungry and what she wants, and she says she likes cheeseburgers, and he says, I'm going to get you... doing it now.
Yeah.
She says, I'm going to get you all the cheeseburgers
because your dad
want.
liked cheeseburgers, too.
Yeah.
I'm going to get you all the cheeseburgers you want.
Direct callback to the first Iron Man movie, and I was the only one in the theater who laughed, but I laughed out loud at that. It's the only thing I could do to keep from bawling openly.
Yeah.
Ugh.
So
Then we start getting our wrap ups.
That's our wrap up, right? So
we've got
This is where we start to get into the beginning of our Lord of the Rings ending here.
Totally, our Lord of the Rings ending.
Because we get like 5 endings.
Right.
Which one came first?
Well, I'm not.
Let's just go through
order. Doesn't matter that much.
We get Thor. we get Thor telling Valkyrie that she's the new king of Asgard.
Yes, that's right. Which is awesome.
Which is totally awesome.
I'm way into that.
And
that's so
really,
cool.
really makes me hope we get some Valkyrie movies.
Me too. Me too.
Because she's awesome, and Korg can be in those.
Yeah.
Korg and Meek, yes. I'm so glad we got to see more Korg, dude. You have no idea. We forgot they were there in that fight too. Korg and Meek were in that end fight.
Oh yeah, they were in that fight.
Yeah.
All the Asgardians were, I think.
Yeah. Man, so cool.
And then,
then Thor goes and gets on the ship.
Yeah, Rocket shows
gets on the
up.
Milano.
Yeah. The Asgardians of the galaxy back again.
We totally skipped over another big important thing during that whole fight, though, is we get Gamora back, but in a weird way.
Yeah.
What's past Gamora that's never met the Guardians?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And she's heard the story. Like, she knows Quill is her boyfriend and everything, because there's that scene where she
goes,
kicks
him,
her
really?
in the junk,
Yeah, twice.
Yeah, twice. Because he falls over. He's like, the first time you missed, the second time you got them both. And she's just looking down at him. That's where she goes, him? Really? You know? And then Nebula goes, it was either him or a tree.
Yeah.
But now, as the Guardians are reforming, like that's going to be a whole new... Whatever they do with Guardians of the Galaxy 3, which, if Guardians of the Galaxy 3 is not as Guardians of the Galaxy, I am going to riot.
So
Thor even said the line.
Yeah.
as he was getting on the ship, clearly joining that group. If that's not a Thor movie.
So let's speculate a little bit here, because they open that scene with Peter looking at Gamora on an image like they were trying to track her already, because she had disappeared.
Yeah.
She didn't hang around after the big war. She left somewhere. So Guardians 3 is obviously going to be the search for Gamora, right? Like, that's the plot of that movie. But also, Thor's probably going to be hanging out with them, which is amazing. And I think there's a good reason why he's going to be hanging out with them, because if we now circle back to the Adam Warlock thing, we need a Thor there to fight Adam Warlock, right? Okay. Who's going to be this other super-powered being. We need an Asgardian up there for that. So
I'm down with that. Okay.
So that's kind of what I'm
thinking. They have
one
of my favorite exchanges from the movie when they get on the ship and,
Dude, my God.
Thor says something, Peter says something about being the captain and being in charge, and Thor's just like, yeah, of course, everybody knows who's in charge here, and they start kind of arguing back and forth, and Thor's just being like super passive and smiley about it, and he gives that line, he's like, it's fine, we don't need to fight, everyone knows who's in charge here, and they're all like, yeah, and Peter's like, yeah, me.
Yeah.
Right? Everyone knows that.
Well, was it because Drax says they need to fight to the death, and then Mantis is like, "Ooh, use knives." It's amazing. I'm so excited for more Guardians. I have no idea.
Oh my goodness.
And it's like going to be Thor Ragnarok and Guardians mixed together. That's going to be the best Marvel movie we've ever seen.
They better.
Fat Thor. Fat Thor.
Is he still going to be fat?
Oh God, I hope so.
They better keep Hemsworth on contract forever and just have him keep doing team up movies.
Dude, oh my God.
But we almost feel like Hemsworth needs his own. Like he's got to have a different legacy. You know what I mean? Like, Robert Downey Jr., he's like the superstar. He's like the diva. You know what I mean? He's like the top guy.
Yeah.
Captain America clearly has had the best, most cohesive story and character through line. Yeah. So Thor's got to be the one that just keeps showing up and never goes away. He's like the...
I'm in with that. Yeah. He's for sure one of my favorites, so I don't
We've
care.
already seen these guys play versions of themselves that were 30 years younger. We can literally get Thor movies forever.
Man.
Well, with the CG now, have you seen the new Will Smith's movie where he just plays a young version of himself?
Yeah.
Apparently, we're just doing that now. So.
That's just the thing. Yeah.
I like how the not to get totally off subject, but the trailer for that's like from visionary director Ang Lee.
Yeah. I almost shut it off.
I was like, I get what you're going for, movie, except you're giving me things we've already seen in like 10 other movies.
Right.
Yeah.
So don't try to tell me Ang Lee invented this.
Yeah.
All right, but then we get Steve's bittersweet ending.
Oh man.
Captain America is tasked with going and putting the stones back where they came from at the exact moment they were taken. Hulk is there. Professor Hulk.
Yeah.
A couple of other guys are there setting them up. I think
it's War Machine. Sam and Bucky.
Are there,
Yep. Sam and Bucky.
And they're Professor Hulk's telling him, you go back, you do whatever it takes, make sure you get them to where they were right when we took them. And then you come back here.
What a crazy adventure that would have had to have been. Like, thinking about him having to go back to all these places and putting them back where he got them now.
I think it's Bucky that asks, like, well, how long is it going to take? And Professor Hulk's like, for him, however long it takes. For us, about 5 seconds.
Yeah.
And so he sends him off, and then he does the countdown, and he tries to bring him back, and, like, nothing's happening, and they start freaking out, asking, and Hulk's like, hey, he shot right past his mark. I don't know, I'm trying to bring him back. And Sam's the one freaking out because you just hear Bucky going, Sam, and they turn around and they look over near the lake they're standing next to, and there's just an old guy sitting on a park bench.
Yeah.
So Sam goes up to see him, and he comes around the corner, and it's what's the opposite of de-aging someone?
Yeah.
Aging someone.
Yeah.
A very
80-year-old cat.
Yeah. He looked and sounded like Clint Eastwood to me.
For sure.
Yeah, right?
I was kind of watching that going, I kind of wish they would have just called Clint Eastwood and had him come do this scene,
No, that would have sent all kinds of weird messages.
But he basically just has a conversation with Sam and just tells him, that life you guys keep talking about, I finally went and decided to have one. And, I can't remember exactly how he said it. It was kind of an emotional scene there, too. But he basically, he's got the shield again.
Right.
Yeah.
He pulled it from the past.
Brought it from the past, I guess. Yeah.
And passes it along to Sam.
Yay, Sam, Captain America.
Puts it on his arm. Yeah, I said, how's it feel? He said, like it belongs to someone else. And
Yeah.
Captain America says, well, it doesn't.
Yeah.
And
I know, man.
Yeah.
And you know what? I remember back when we were talking about Civil War, we were already speculating back then that there was a possibility of Cap not coming out of that alive.
Yeah.
Because in the comics, Cap didn't come out of Civil War alive, and then Bucky took over the mantle of Captain America. But also in the books, we've had Sam take over as Captain America too. So they've both been Captain America in the comics. So I think that's kind of neat that all these years later, here it is, the mantle is being passed on, and it's going to Sam.
Yeah, and more interesting speculation arising from that too, because the other Disney Plus TV show is supposed to be Sam and Bucky.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
You didn't know that?
No, I thought I knew that there was. I thought they were talking about a Hawkeye one too.
No,
at some point.
Falcon and Bucky.
Falcon and Winter
Soldier or
Wow.
whatever.
So
I don't
Falcon
think they have
is-
a name for it, but now, so is that just going to be a Captain America show?
Well, okay,
Yeah.
I'll watch
Yeah.
it.
Oh, for sure.
Why?
For sure.
Why wouldn't I? That's cool. So this is pretty neat too. I like this. I like because the movie ends. I guess we should get to that. It ends showing. Well, because Sam notices the ring on his finger.
Yeah.
And he says, so you're going to tell me about her? And he just goes, no, I don't think I will. But then it cuts back to the past, and we see Steve and Peggy getting their dance finally, right? Which I had a feeling we were going to get that at some point, like that he was going to get his dance, but I was so just satisfied that it did happen. I was just like, this is the perfect ending for Cap for me.
Yes,
I am
yes.
totally down with that. It does bring up questions. I know that people have already, like, we've been talking about the time travel stuff and how this works.
That's why he didn't want to tell Falcon about it,
Right.
because he had to explain why he decided to create a whole alternate timeline.
Yeah, basically that would create...
You know how my entire mission was to not make these? Well, I made them.
Yeah.
But I guess, if he saved a bunch of them from being made and then just made one.
So he would have
Whatever.
had to jump back, right, to be on that park bench. So in order to be in this timeline,
Theoretically, yeah.
So he must have waited until Peggy died and then zapped back to that moment to be on that park bench. So that must have been what happened. That must have been his plan the whole time.
Yeah.
Because you're right. Bruce did say he shot past his mark. Maybe he just shot past it to over there on that park bench. But he still came back to that the timeline. So
Well, I also love to point out just how down with it Bucky was.
yeah.
Bucky was just so it's hard to explain. He was just nodding yeah, man, it's you.
Yeah.
It's you, because they had kind of been at odds because they were both Cap's best friends,
Yeah.
So for that moment to be yeah, man, it's you was I loved that.
Yeah.
I loved Bucky's reaction.
I can't wait for that show.
Isn't it cool too, thinking about how Tony and Cap have always kind of been the opposite ends of the spectrum. Like at the end of this, Tony became selfless and sacrificed himself so that everybody else can live. And then Steve got to be a little selfish and finally go and experience a life for himself after this. So that was kind of neat.
Yep.
That was kind of cool. So
There's something I read about earlier too, and it was one of the. Just let it be. I'm just going to try to step away and enjoy. I do enjoy the moment, but I don't want to overthink the moment either.
yes.
But it's weird to think about a Captain America in a different timeline that doesn't jump up to help every time there's a world
That
crisis.
is that is weird.
But clearly the world survived because he's there and he's fine.
And also he had that shield for a reason.
And also Peggy Carter is not the type to just sit back and do nothing.
Yeah, good call.
There's
good
probably a whole series of adventures of Cap and Peggy running around saving the day, and now I want to watch that. So,
How awesome is it going to be if they bring Peggy Carter back and Steve's just a side character?
That's what I was gonna say. I was just gonna say I wanted to bring back a third season of Peggy Carter, but just totally put Cap in that shrew wife role, So every time he's like, "What are you going to do that for? They'll be fine."
Look, I've already fought a Mad Titan and won. We don't need to do this. Oh my gosh!
I want to see the version of that timeline where he just totally Biff Tannins it. Like, you get there, there's just like Steve Rogers towers everywhere because he just did a bunch of sports betting.
Oh my god. Rogers Towers everywhere instead of Stark stuff.
Yep.
Amazing.
You know what the best part is? You and Peggy get to live together forever? Yeah, sure. Also, Tony Stark's my butler.
Yeah. Oh my god.
Yes.
So that put an end to it.
That
puts an end. And there is no end credit scene. Right?
No end credit scenes, but we do get the awesome credit scene or the credit sequence where everybody's kind of getting their little moment, and then the Avengers, then the big team, the original Avengers, all get the thing with their little signature, and
which was awesome.
Yeah.
Well, and then at the tail end of the credits,
there's like a sound.
It's Iron Man hammering on the suit.
Oh,
ding,
that's what it is.
Ding, ding. Which I think was just their way to kind of reference, where it all started.
Yeah.
Just right there at the very end. I thought that was pretty neat, too.
I
didn't know what it was at first.
I heard it and I went, I know that's significant, but...
Yeah. It's just... Man, even talking about it, I want to see it again. I'm excited to see it again.
Several times through this conversation.
Man, me too. I just
teared up once.
Yeah,
some of this is allergies. At least one time it was not.
Even with some of the things that we can nitpick on or kind of critique.
Yep.
I feel like this movie was just perfect for what I need. Like, it gave me everything I wanted. We got to see a lot of loose ends tied up. We got to see just good stories. Like this
flat out geek out moments.
Man, so many amazing geek out moments. It really did feel like the last 11 years built up to this movie, and then this movie paid off. I left this movie, like, the emotions that I felt after this movie, like, lasted for days. Because, like, I went to work the next day and was just like, I don't even know what to do with myself right now. Like, I just, like, my insides feel weird, and, like, I don't know what I'm supposed to, like, this is crazy.
Part of that was because you were running off an hour and a half of sleep.
Well, that's true, but still, I mean, it was just, like, I haven't been able to really stop thinking about this since I've seen it. It's just something special. This whole thing was just something special. Going back to what I said in the beginning, it's amazing.
It's a theater, like a cinematic in the theater experience, like I've never had before. Never. Like I had a lot of kind of nitpicks and critiques and things that I thought were weak about it. I mean, I loved it though. You know what I mean? And I felt things for that movie that I had never felt before. Yep. And I think I texted you guys at one point beforehand. I was like, you know what? I've just had to come to terms that I'm going to be disappointed in Endgame. Yeah. I'm so hyped up for this movie. Like, unless Rocket shows up in the Milano and gives us all superpowers and takes us to help in the final fight, like, I'm still going to be let down by this movie. Yeah. But A, I was not let down by this movie, and B, like, I felt like I had been there. I felt like I was in that final fight. Like, just as much, it had that I talked about when we talked about Avengers, when we get that big pan around and Cap starts giving out orders. Like, I'm like, and what do you want me to do, Cap?
Yeah, exactly.
you know, when everybody was coming out, when we got to the end of this movie and everybody was jumping out of the little sling ring portals. Yeah, I felt like I was right there in that fight, man, the whole way, and I did the next day too. I was just kind of like, well, everything in my life now comes after this.
Yeah, exactly, right? Yeah. All right. Any final thoughts?
No, I like I said, I really want to watch this 5 or 6 more times. Definitely. Stew on it for a few months and then do this episode again.
Do it all over again. I really do.
Yeah.
Well, it is kind of funny how, like, everything in this podcast was basically us going back to rewatch all this stuff, and just, I mean, with this and Captain Marvel were like fresh takes essentially. Yeah. So, but that is how this show is going to continue, because we're going to talk about all these Marvel movies going forward. So we will just keep Marvel Good Yay rolling as every new Marvel movie comes out.
So instead of doing them on the actual Geek Easy, they'll be their own show.
That way we can dedicate the whole time to talking about it. Plus, it seems like a lot of people really enjoy this, so I think that's awesome, and I want to keep it going too. So it's kind of like its own separate show now.
It is.
Goodness,
man.
I feel like feel like Marvel Goodyear has reached that same kind of in-game.
I know, right?
Right? Like,
where do we
man.
go from here? We don't even know. But we do have Spider-Man Far From Home coming up. It's going to be real interesting to see how things are affected by that. Stop that. Stop that.
Cut it out.
With the whole 5-year discrepancy,
Yeah.
I'm real interested to see how that goes. I had speculated with you guys that I was thinking that might be something that takes place before Infinity War, except I was just reading today that they've already said it takes place minutes after Endgame ends.
Well,
Good.
like they've been saying that for a long time.
Okay, so
Okay, good.
Well, but I mean, what they say before Endgame comes out
Yeah.
and what actually happens, I don't know if that's
So
the same
that
thing
that
or
must
not, you
mean
know?
that Peter and his entire group of friends all got Thanos and all
Yeah.
came back. So that's why none of them are 5 years older. So I mean, it's totally plausible. We've seen it happen with.
Well, yeah, right.
Everything
because
else.
it doesn't matter. Everybody goes in a group. It's just whoever, right, John?
I don't know why.
Are we going to end on that? We don't want to end on that.
I mean,
All
I'm
right.
used to getting attacked for being right. I just never understand it.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for listening or for watching, however you guys are tuning into the show. Make sure, if you haven't already, to subscribe to us over on YouTube. Just do a search for Geek Easy Podcast. Hit that subscribe button. Leave us a comment, too. Let us know what you think of Endgame. We'd love to hear from you guys. If you prefer the audio version, you can download the podcast from iTunes, from Spotify, from Stitcher, from Google Play, from Podbean, or whatever your preferred podcasting app is. Leave us a review, rate us, follow us, all that good stuff so we can keep this going. Plus, we do other podcasts as well, including the Geek Easy Podcast, which we'll be getting back on a regular schedule now that we've wrapped up all the Marvel stuff. So I think that's going to wrap things up for Avengers Endgame. So until next time, guys, thanks for listening.
Marvel Goodyear.
The Geek Easy Podcast is a production of PixelDan.com. Musical tracks used in the intro and outro are used with full permission of the respective owners or creators. Intro and outro narrations are provided by me, Brian T. Stevenson. PixelDan.com's The Geek Easy Podcast is provided for entertainment purposes only. The views expressed are those solely of the hosts or guests and do not necessarily represent those of PixelDan.com or any other party. Be sure to join us next time for another installment of the Geek Easy Podcast.